Call this meeting to order. We're going to start with a moment of reflection. Thank you. And just before I get into disclosure, this is going to be we do have a lot on the agenda. It's going to be a relatively heavy meeting, so I'm going to try and keep it moving. But having said that, anybody who wants to have a say will have a say. But we aren't going to dilly-dally around. We're going to try and so disclosure of pecuniary interest, you can do it now or any point in time through the meeting. Councillor Wilhelm.
Yes, the Libby official plan amendment we have on the property adjacent.
Okay, that's 7.2.1 on the agenda. Anyone else? Don't see any. You can always make one partially through the meeting if one should arise. Next, we'll move on to consent agenda, and we have both. And before we actually confirm the agenda, we have to go to confirmation of the agenda. But we do have one slight addition, and that is item 6.2, delegation item 7.2.3, Kate Willis, MHBC Planning, on behalf of the Lunar Group Incorporated. So I need to add that to the agenda. That's further down in the meeting. And with that addition, can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor McDermott, Councillor McKenzie. Those in favor? That's carried. Perfect. Now we have consent agenda items 5.1 to 5.22 and the September 1st, 22 council minutes. Does anyone want to see anything pulled for discussion? Councillor McDermott.
Could we have 5.2 and 5.3, please?
5.2, 5.3. Okay, and perhaps we have a public works report later, so we'll move that down to 7.5.2. That work, John? Sure. Okay with you? Anything else? Not seeing anything. So could I have a motion to receive, Bob, Councillor Wilhelm?
No.
Are you going to make the motion?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion will be council receives consent to agenda items 5.1 to 5.2 with the exception of 5.2 and 5.3 and approves the September 1st, 2022 council minutes. Councillor Wilhelm move that. And excuse me, Councillor Kellum second that. Those in favor? That's carried. And no, I don't have COVID. That's called soybean dust. I'm still getting ragweed here. Okay, moving on. Public meetings, hearings, and delegations. This is first thing we need to do. This is 6.1. This is for OPA 209, 210. Plan of Subdivision, Percon Investments, and West Perth 2201 Plan of Subdivision, West Mitchell Developments. And before we can start that, we need a motion to recess for the purpose of holding a public meeting at 9:05. Councillor Hurley, second by Councillor McDermott. Those in favor? That is carried. So now we are into the public meeting. And I'm going to call the public meeting to order. And any disclosure of pecuniary interest, you can do it now or any point in time through this public meeting. And if I could have a motion to confirm the agenda, Councillor Wilhelm.
Yes, on the planning of the Libby property.
Okay, that's a conflict of interest.
Yes.
Okay.
One.
Councillor McDermott.
I'll
Move it. The agenda. Councillor Agus, or Deputy Warden Agus is going to second that. Perfect. Okay, those in favor? That's carried. We have minutes from the meeting on September 1st that we need to approve. Motion to approve those, Councillor Kasenberg, seconded by Councillor McDermott. Those in favor? That's carried. And now we are moving on to the reports, and we're going to start up with Who's the first one? Is that, that'll be our plan from West Perth? Oh, Melissa, there she is.
Good morning.
How are you?
Pretty good yourself?
Lovely. Couldn't be better. Anyway, we're ready for
Luby?
the report on the application of 209.
Okay,
Hi, Libby.
perfect. Let me just share my screen. Does everybody see this? Do you see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay. So this is an official plan amendment pertaining to the land at 1180 Perth Road, 139 in Perth South. The owner is proposing to construct a residential dwelling on the northwesterly portion of the subject site. A rezoning amendment application has been submitted in conjunction with the OPA application. The OPA and the accompanying rezoning application propose to redesignate and rezone the subject land to agricultural use to permit a residence. The land fronts onto Perth Road 139 and is approximately 1.2 kilometers north of the hamlet of Prospect Hill. The land is 1.84 hectares or 4.54 acres in size. The Somerville Bryan Drain, a small tributary of the Fish Creek, borders the north end of the property. A recreational trail park is located directly to the south. Beyond this, there are several rural residential lots that lie south and north of the property. Lands to the west of the subject site contain a large pond and a residence. The area to the east of Road 139 is comprised of natural heritage and agricultural lands with residences. The land is currently designated as mineral aggregate or primary or secondary aggregate resource on Schedule A of the County of Perth official plan. The land was previously disturbed and has since been naturalized with respect to vegetation. The land is currently zoned institutional in the Perth South zoning bylaw. So Robert Gibson Consulting Services prepared an aggregate impact assessment to evaluate the status of the subject lands with respect to any further aggregate extraction potential. The assessment includes a review of the aggregate resources inventory paper for the County of Perth compiled by the Ontario Geological Survey in 2013. The survey noted that the subject property is located within a small aggregate deposit identified as selected sand and gravel resource area of secondary significance. An earlier mapping indicated the presence of a gravel sand pit operation at one time. However, the more recent mapping does not refer to any licensed or unlicensed pit being present. The assessment report essentially concludes that any further excavation of aggregate from the site would not be feasible because the land has been mechanically graded and altered, and there's likely an insufficient amount of aggregate remaining to warrant licensing as the site is small and the existing uses surrounding the site are limiting any further excavation activities. The subject lands are regulated by UTRCA and subject to flooding hazards associated with the drain. UTRC has provided setbacks from the hazard lands and confirmed that a proposed dwelling can be accommodated outside the hazardous lands. Despite substantial grade changes across the lands, the UTRC confirmed that further geotechnical assessment is not warranted for the proposed development. Also, section 5.29 of the Perth South zoning bylaw requires a 15-meter setback from the top of the bank for municipal drains or water courses. And UTRC is satisfied that the proposed development is greater than 15 meters from the top of the bank. And I'm just going to show you the slide of the development. So the property is located northwest corner, and what you see on the screen as that kind of orangey yellow and blue sort of shading that indicates like a cut and fill placement. There will be some grading alterations, but essentially the drain, sorry, not the drain. The house is in the northwesterly corner, and the adjacent to it is the proposed septic bed. So like I said, the owner is proposing to construct a dwelling. New dwelling is proposed to be a single detached dwelling with appropriate setbacks, and that were confirmed in consultation with the UTRCA. This concludes my public meeting presentation, and I would be happy to elaborate further during the regular council session. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Anyone have any questions for Melissa at this point from council? Okay, I do have Caroline Baker coming on with regards to this item. So there we go. Morning, Caroline.
Morning to Warden, members of County Council. Caroline Baker from Baker Planning Group. We were retained by Mr. Luby to assist with the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications. Ms. Gassick provided an excellent and thorough summary, and just wanted to comment that we're in agreement with the planning assessment of county staff, and are essentially here if there's any further questions from County Council or members of the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Any questions for Caroline at this point? Just checking around, I'm not seeing any hands. Okay, I have a motion here that we don't have any other people who want to speak to this? No. Just checking. Okay, we have a motion that County Council receives a report entitled Application for County Official Plan Amendment number 209 by Ryland Luby, affecting lands described as Park Lot 26, Concession West Mitchell Road, Blanchard Ward, Township of Perth South, 1180 Perth Road 139 for information, and that council receives the comments from the public for consideration regarding the official plan amendment number 209 to the County of Perth official plan pertaining to the lands at Park Lot 26, Concession West Mitchell Road, Blanchard Ward, Township of Perth South, 1180 Road 139, while reserving the decision to approve at the regular council meeting to be held on October 6th. So we will be dealing with that later in the agenda. Do I have a motion or approve or something to that motion? Councilor McKenzie, second by Deputy Warden Higgins. Those in favor? Carried. So we'll deal with that. Actually, thanks, Carolina. We'll deal with that later. Okay, now we're going to move on to lots of paperwork. So this will be the West Perth WP 2201 Plan of Subdivision submitted by 2729988 Ontario Inc. West Mitchell Developments Report. And I just got to keep flowing through my Suzanne. Susanna's doing this, I believe, and there is Susanna on the screen. Perfect. We're ready for you, Susanna.
Okay, great. Good morning, council. And I just will also let you know that Bruce Potter, who is from BS Ross, the municipal engineer, is also attending. So he is available to answer questions from the public. All right, so I will share my screen and review the application. Okay, I think you can see the slide presentation now.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so this is an application. This is the legislative public meeting for an application in the municipality of West Perth. It is a plan of subdivision, and the subdivision file number is WP 2201. This is the location of the property. It is between Wimpole Street and the unopened road allowance of Dungy Lane. The applicant is a numbered company, West Mitchell Developments, and Carolyn Baker, Baker Planning Consultants, is the agent for this file and is attending the meeting. So this is a drawing that has been provided by the Carolyn Baker as the applicant's planner, showing the location of the property. It's just shy of 12-acre site, and it's proposed to be developed as a residential subdivision. These are the designations. So the property is within the Mitchell official plan. This is the yellow is the residential designation in the Mitchell official plan, and the white here is an agricultural designation. This hatched red area is a highway commercial designation in the Mitchell official plan. And you can see the property would be accessed by Wimple Street extending here, and is also proposed to be accessed by Dungy Lane. This is the unopened Dungy Lane road allowance. Here is the zoning in the West Perth zoning bylaw. So again, the property is here, and it also includes this strip of land here on the east side of the Wimpole Street road allowance. And there's also a swim pond proposed over here. So because the current zoning on the property is future development R1-H and future development here. Oh, okay. I just heard that you can't see my cursor. So you can see if I go back here, you can see where the property is. So the zoning is future development R1-H and future development on the west side of Mitchell Lane, Dungy Lane. Okay, so here is the subdivision as proposed by the applicant. There's a total of 106 residential units, 18 single detached residences, 10 semi-detached units, 18 townhouses, and 60 condos and apartments. This is a photo of the subject property. So standing towards the railway at the south of the lot, you can see that it's currently being propped, looking north towards the unopened Wimpole Street allowance. And also some more photos around the site. So this is standing at the corner, the current extension of Wimpole Street, looking towards the subject property, which is currently in soybeans. This is standing on Huron Street, Huron Road, looking down the unopened road allowance of Dungy Lane. You can see the white sign in the photo, which is the notice of the application. And this is the other proposed access. So standing on the current built extension of Wimpole Street, looking south along the Wimpole Street road allowance at the corner of Coburg Street. Now I'm turned around and looking north. So this is looking north on Wimpole Street and across Huron Road, and then Wimpole Street on the north side. And on the west side of Wimpole Street, there are existing light industrial and highway commercial uses. Again, this is immediately north of the subject site. The Ontario Beer Kegs business is located here. It's immediately adjacent to the subject property. And this is standing on the corner of Wimpole Street on Huron Road, just showing you that there are existing light industrial highway commercial uses on Huron Street. So moving around the subject property, this is an existing adjacent residential neighborhood, Walt Lane, which abuts the property. You can see the dotted black line on the slide. So there are single detached dwellings proposed behind Walt Lane. So behind the houses that you can see, I'm standing on Walt Lane looking west. So behind those lots, there are proposed to be 10 residences. And this is standing on the corner of Coburg Street at Wimpole Street. You can see there's existing single detached residences here as well. Okay, back to the drawing that has been provided by the applicant. With regards to density, I'll just walk through it. So there are 3 locations in this property where single detached dwellings are proposed. And the guidelines or the density direction at the bottom of the slide is from the Mitchell official plan. So these single detached dwellings are proposed to be 17 units per hectare. These two or four blocks, two areas are proposed to be townhouses at 28 units per hectare, which would be considered a medium density. And then there is a higher density unit area proposed to be 60 condos or apartments at 48 units per hectare. So considering I'm reviewing now the planning considerations that the department looked at when reviewing this application and the studies that the applicant has provided. So the applicant provided a noise and vibration study to consider both the proximity to the Goderich to Exeter Railway, which is south of the land. So the other lands owned by the applicant that are shown on the air photo provided by the applicant's planner are not being developed at this time because there's an agricultural designation on that site. And they are proposed to be developed in the future. So the applicant has prepared a noise and vibration study to consider the impact of the existing railway on the development, and also to consider the proximity to the industrial commercial, or the highway commercial and light industrial uses to the north of the site. And warning clauses are proposed to be added to all of the properties with regards to the proximity to the railway and to the properties on the north side of the development to advise with regards to proximity to the highway commercial uses to the north. The memorial park you can see is outlined in the red dotted line on the air photo. That is a 5.5 acre parkland site. And it's also the site of closed Napier Street landfill. So the location of this parkland is relevant to the development because it provides a park area for the residents of future residents of the site. And the study or the municipality of West Perth has prepared a methane study to consider if are there any concerns with regard to this existing closed landfill site on the development. And the study concludes that there is a low chance of any concerns with regards to the off-gassing from this closed landfill site. Then the developer has the other consideration that has been made with this development is pedestrian access. So the two red arrows on the screen now show proposed pedestrian corridors to allow the residences of future residences of block 17 to access the highway commercial area to the north by foot as opposed to driving. And then the other consideration with the municipality of West Perth is proposing to add a pedestrian trail to allow the residences to access the as at present unopened road allowance on Wimpole Street to walk over to Memorial Park. Then there are comments received from neighboring property owners, and as this is a public meeting, we will receive their comments. I'll just show you the photos of two of the comments have been received from Dory Woolwich and Mike Foster at 108 Huron Road, which is the house on the right, and Sarah Ward, which is the house on the left. And this photo, which is put together here, shows that the unopened road allowance from Dudgeon Lane is proposed to access Huron Road between these two residences. The municipality of West Perth reviewed this file at their council meeting this past Monday, and West Perth's comments have been provided to County Council today. They have endorsed the conditions that have been provided for the review and are in your package today. Those conditions have been endorsed by West Perth Council. And then council also passed an additional resolution in part response to the concerns from the neighbors on Huron Road, asking that the traffic study calculations be reviewed and also that the concerns related to traffic noise and pollution be considered by County Council. The other consideration is with regards to the saving the trees or the questions from those neighbors is with regards to the trees on the Dungy Lane road allowance. Council has also received comments from two neighbors on Wall Lane. Those were said yesterday, Herb and Pauline Hartfell and John and Linda Gregory. And I believe that those neighbors may be at the public meeting today. And I can speak to their comments after they raise their questions as well. And Bruce Potter is also available to speak to engineering comments. So perhaps I'll stop there and I can offer additional comments as at council's request.
Thanks, Susanna. Any questions for Susanna at this point in time? Councilor Ehrlich.
Yeah, no, the late minutes there from the West Perth Council, the traffic concerns in the traffic study, that's something we seem to be getting overwhelmed with in general is traffic as the expansion of these hamlets and towns. What's your thoughts on the existing traffic study, Susanna? Of course, we're not experts in the field. I read it. It seems to make sense. I'm just wondering the residents, what their concerns are with the traffic study. Obviously, they feel it's light, and just what triggers that. What goes into that traffic study? How many people do the study, or how do they set up to do a good traffic study on a subdivision potential expansion like this? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Shall I take this question, Mr. Warden?
Yes, you can. I see Bruce Potter's popped up on the screen there too. So either you or Mr. Potter, that would be lovely.
That is what I was going to suggest, that this question would be best answered by the municipal engineer.
Okay,
Hello.
Bruce, morning.
Hello, Warden Atchison and councilors. Traffic studies in general for new subdivisions look at expected peak traffic volumes from existing development and from the impact of the new development, and generally look at what improvements to intersections or road networks are required because of the impact of that development. For the most part, that means that nearby intersections, such as Dungy and Huron, we'll just use that as an example, are reviewed to see if the increase in peak traffic in that intersection would generate enough warrants for turning lanes, or, well, we're not going to mention traffic signals because we'll never get warrants for that there. And that is the thrust of most traffic studies for small developments like this, is the impact of the needs for improvements to adjacent property owners. Neighboring residents, often complain about increased traffic, and there's no question that any development is going to increase traffic. But the question is, does it increase traffic enough that you need to do road improvements or intersection improvements? And this report, which we reviewed a year ago, does not recommend improvements on Huron Road in terms of turning lanes. And if somebody had asked me ahead of time if I thought it would be likely to, I would have said no. We see in smaller developments than this that there's often a wish on the part of some people to do a traffic study, and often that there's going to be no outcome that would require improvements, and this becomes an expense to the developer that can sometimes be, in my mind, unwarranted. Subject to the motion from West Perth Council on Monday night, and I haven't talked to staff at West Perth yet, just I talked to Susanna briefly. We'll take another look at this traffic study, but my recollection of the review that we did was that I was not surprised at all by the outcome. So hopefully that answer is helpful to whoever it was that asked the question. I can't remember.
Thank you, Bruce. Any other questions at this point? Okay, we're moving on. We got some delegations here. First up will be Caroline Baker, I presume. And yeah, so these delegations are basically going to be allowed 3 minutes each to state their case. Caroline. How are you? We're back.
Good morning again, Warden, members of council. If acceptable, can I share my screen? I have a brief presentation with graphics,
Sure.
and I'll try to go as quickly as I can, mindful of the time allotted. And similarly, Ms. Reed provided a very comprehensive overview of the application. I wanted to focus in, if you can see the concept in front of you, on some of the specifics of the development, technical studies, and a response to the resident comments that we've received to date. Certainly what's before you is the draft plan of subdivision. I have added some markings to it just to help guide members of the public and council through the application. The land area consists of two phases, what I'll call phase 1 and phase 2. The application this morning is only phase 1, which would constitute 106 dwelling units. There has been contemplation for phase 2, but that would be subject of a future application, including a draft plan of subdivision. But we did want to note that there has been an overarching view to ensure that both phases can be appropriately designed and developed with respect to the road pattern. What you'll see on this plan, I've shaded in light gray, Wimple Street and Dungy Lane. Currently, those are both unopened municipal road allowances owned by West Perth. Our understanding is they're intended to be built as part of the expansion of Mitchell as it heads to the west. We've also highlighted in blue where the stormwater management pond will be located. It has been sized that it could accommodate both phase 1 and phase 2. In green, you'll see where the existing Eleanor Street Park is. Ms. Reed commented on future pedestrian connections, which the owner is fully supportive of. In the light peach is the existing railway. We are in receipt of comments from the railway that they do have no objections to the planning applications put forward by the owner. Just wanted to speak briefly on the form and mix of residential units proposed. On the north side in red, you'll see multi-unit residential as block 17. That's proposed to be low-rise apartments, approximately 60 dwelling units, opportunity either for rental or home ownership. On the left side of the page, which would be west, those will be proposed street townhouses. To the right will be semi-detached dwellings, and around the perimeter would be singles. Certainly we're in receipt of resident comments. We understand a resident of Walt Lane had some questions on stormwater management related to lot 1 and 9. And I know you can't see, I don't believe you can see my cursor. Essentially, there was some concern that their backyards drain onto this property. I've spoken with the project engineers, and any existing drainage routes will be respected and continue to be taken by the site and taken into consideration with respect to the design. And any easements deemed appropriate for that drainage will certainly work with the county and West Perth. We are also in receipt of comments from the two property owners on either side of Dungy Lane that front onto Huron Road with respect to some concerns on traffic as well as the removal of trees. As mentioned, Dungy Lane is an unopened road allowance that is owned by the municipality, but certainly construction of that road would take place through this approval if it is approved. A few components there. We've worked with County of Perth staff. We hope to meet on site with the residents to walk them through the construction and the extension and what the impact would be. Certainly, if there does result in any tree removals as a result of the road construction, there will be replacement trees that would occur. But we are happy to meet with them on site again to walk through that. Just going to move to the next slide. This is some sample images of what the buildings could look like, showing some bungalows, singles, semi-detached, as well as the low-rise apartment. These are just sample images of intent of the owner and builder. And I'm going to skip ahead because I know I'm tight on time. I just wanted to focus on the traffic study because I understand from West Perth and this morning, certainly those are our key comments and questions. Julie Salvini Consulting did prepare the traffic impact study. She is watching on YouTube, so she is able to hear any comments and respond as needed after this meeting. The traffic study concluded that the development in its fulsome, so both phase 1 and phase 2, and I'll keep in mind only phase 1 is before you this morning, but upon full build out, It would generate an estimated 103 AM hour peak trips. So over 1 hour, there would be 103 in and out movements over the entire subdivision, being Dungey, Wimple, and Coburn. And then in the PM peak, being the busiest hour in the afternoon, at the end of the workday, there would be 129 traffic movements. Again, this is both in and out on all three exits and entrances to the subdivision. The study concluded that there was no warrants for any turn lanes, as Mr. Potter mentioned, and no signalization. However, one note that there is a recommendation that a stop signal may be appropriate at Coburg and Wimple because it's a T intersection, and that would be helpful for traffic safety. As it relates to the Dungey Road to Huron, of that traffic generation in the AM peak, there would be 50 trips in and out, heading in both directions, being east and west on Huron Road. Just to conclude, we also prepared a planning justification report that summarized the numerous technical studies, the policy framework. In our opinion, this is a site that's located in the settlement area of Mitchell. It's intended for development. There's the ability to service the land. Appropriate transportation considerations have been undertaken, as well as assessments of land use compatibility, not only the light industrial to the north and the railway, but of course also the residential to the east, and locating the larger single family lots adjacent to the existing development to the east. So I hope I haven't gone over my time. I can leave it on this screen or I can stop sharing, whatever might be the wish of the warden and council.
Actually, if you could make any questions for Caroline at this point. If you could stop sharing the screen, then I can actually see more of the faces. Thank you. Any questions for Caroline at this point in time? Not seeing any hands, so we have some more delegations on this matter. And the next one up, thanks Caroline. Next one up will be Dory Woolrich, Mike Foster. They're joining us. There we go. We got the name. Oh, there we go.
Okay, we're
Okay,
there.
we're ready.
Good morning, Councilman and Ward. Okay, so a lot of the concerns we had were touched upon, except for the fact that our home is within 3 meters. Our foundation, or sorry, our property line is within 3 meters of the 3 feet of the road allowance. You want to say it? So within that 3 feet, we have our generator plus our invisible fence, which wouldn't be able to be disrupted due to our current pet. And so our biggest concern is the fact that construction of that road would be very close to the proximity of our home. So which includes, that's where our traffic concerns are. It's not so much where we need a turn lane or a stop sign. It's the fact that we would have noise pollution, we would have exhaust pollution, as well as privacy, as well, sorry, my voice is hoarse, as well, and it's not COVID, as well as higher risk of theft, which we have already experienced a few times being out on the highway. So those are what our concerns are, is because of the proximity of our home to the construction of Dungey Lane. We are requesting an alternative. We know that that's not likely going to be an option, but we would like to make that known. What else was there? And we most definitely want to be involved in the construction of the road next to our home so that we can have some say in how that how the road is laid out. Yeah, we're worried about our foundation is a block foundation. So, and it's a century home, like both mine and Sarah's are as well. So we're concerned of the integrity of our foundation.
Okay. Anything else?
Just if there's an estimated time of when construction would be started to be planned for the road so that we can ensure that we stay involved.
Okay, well, as far as the construction end of it and zoning or whatever in West Perth, county council has really no place in that, but I'm sure the West Perth Council will be more than happy to work with you on that.
Thank you.
We've got a couple counselors on the screen here, Counselor Wright, and Counselor Mackenzie, so I'm sure they're listening to those comments. Okay, and anything else?
No, for me.
Okay, thank you very much. We got a few delegations, so we're gonna move on to the next one. And the next one would be, oops, going too fast here, Herb Hartfield. Right? So we can get him on the screen. Oh, there he is. Oh, there he's gone. We see you on the screen there, Herb. If you want, oh, your picture's back. If you want to unmute, we're ready for you. Is he talking? I believe. Okay, you're still muted there, Herb. You should have a button down your bottom left-hand corner.
Got it now?
There we're going.
We're off and running. Okay, good morning. Basically, I think Carolyn has touched on our concerns as far as the subdivision is concerned. My wife and I are owners of 68 Indy Walt Lane, and I'm representing John and Linda Gregory, who owns 67. Our concern basically with the subdivision along lots number 1 to 9, we've had water ponding problems since we first initially purchased the property 31 years ago. The developer at that time was aware of the problem, has dug a couple ditches over the last 30 years to help relieve that water problem. And basically, we just want to ensure that that water problem will be taken care of and that an easement possibly put together that we won't have to worry about it should the problem reemerge sometime in the future. But I think Carolyn kind of touched on it in her presentation. And I think that's basically all we wanted to put together here.
Okay, thank you very much, Herb. We have Bruce and we have Caroline still. If they want, or is anyone in council got any questions for Herb on this one? Don't see any. Perhaps once we get through the delegations, if somebody wants to go back and discuss that drainage thing, we can, but we're gonna keep going here.
Okay.
Hands up. Okay, so the next person we have is Razin. And I pronounce his last name, but I butchered, so I'm not going to. We can get him up on the screen, that'd be great too.
Doesn't appear to be on the list.
You're not there?
I saw them earlier, so I'm just a little. Just want to keep. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Well, how about we move on to Sarah Ward then?
Yeah.
And if he pops back, we'll go back to him.
Okay.
We got her on the screen. You there, Sarah?
Morning.
Okay, you don't need to necessarily show your picture, but.
I am. Can you
show
hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so I've come to the meeting to make a couple of points. Specifically, we're with Dungy Lane, And I don't know if you'll be able to see my comments in the agenda, but I also had concerns about amending the bylaws for setbacks. So I guess the first point is Dungy Lane. We are concerned with it going in because there is exactly 66 feet between our property line and our neighbors. So I guess I also had a question on what the road width was going to be for this medium residential area to go between us. And I think Ms. Baker also commented on preserving the trees by doing replacement. My concern there is we own some of the trees and some are on the property line. Also, those trees are hundreds of years old, so I don't quite know what replacement tree would be going in. So I guess my first point is to ask the question of what is the road allowance width going to be between, or proposed to be between our property and Dory's, because her house is also too close to the property line. It's less than 1.5 meters.
And with a medium residential roadway, I think it would be important to have pedestrian walkway if that was the case as well. So what kind of road width would accommodate that with the walkway?
Bruce, do you want to?
I'm not so sure you have the width available to make that happen.
I'm gonna let Bruce Potter answer that question.
Okay.
Do we want to talk in meters or feet?
You can talk in meters or feet.
Okay, well, I'll
We
talk.
have
in-
19. You have
I'm
19
bilingual.
meters.
Sure. So the road allowance has been there since the original plan of the town of Mitchell was registered. And I can
Which
tell you
doesn't
that,
assume the, okay, yep.
I can tell you that this subdivision, including the remaining lands to the west, which are not being considered at the present time, has been on the radar since 2005. And Dungy Lane has always, it has always been discussed that it would be opened. It was an opportunity to make a link to Kieran Road. So like most native road allowances, the width of that is 20 meters or 66 feet. The width of the asphalt in their typical cross section would be 8.5 meters, which is 28 feet, which is you know, a little less than a third of it, or a little. And there would be a 1.5 meter, 5-foot sidewalk installed probably on the east side of the road. The proximity of your neighbors to the road allowance is known and has been commented on before, and the trees we're aware of. I can't speak to the trees because I don't know exactly where that property line is, but generally speaking, there is not a lot of disruption right at the property line. I expect some of those trees will go and will have to be replanted. The ones that are on the property line, there can be efforts made to retain them. We do not have any kind of design of this road from the developer and his engineer at this point in time to review. And that will be discussed and it will be on the agenda as we move forward with this, assuming it does move forward. I think that I think you'll find that there's an area of that boulevard that will not be disturbed, and a good number of trees I hope can be saved. But it's too early for me to predict, and I don't know where the property line is, so it's hard for me to answer all of that question about the trees right now, folks.
Okay, well, thank you for answering the question for the road widths or the standard road width requirement that would be there. We have located all of our property stakes, and that tree line will be staked out by the end of the day today. So it'll be quite clear what is what and what trees are on the property line or not on the property line.
Okay, anything else to add?
Yeah, so my second concern was the amendments that they wanted to make to the setbacks for specifically blocks 17 and 20. I'm just asking, I guess, that council consider that they utilize the land that they have, putting less setbacks or putting buildings closer to our property line than what's already set out in the bylaw. So I guess, ask that council please consider not amending those bylaws, leaving them with the already zoned out setbacks.
Okay. Susanna, do you want to try taking a crack at that one? Or Bruce?
Sorry, I was just looking for my unmute button. Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. Yes, and thank you to Sarah for attending the meeting. So what I was thinking, Sarah, is I've spoken to the CAO at West Perth, and that perhaps Jeff Brick and I could come and meet you and your neighbors at your property, and we can discuss all of your concerns at that time too. And certainly with regards to the setbacks for the zoning bylaw, I haven't looked at them in detail yet. And there will be another public meeting for the zoning bylaw amendment at West Perth Council. And I've noted your comments now, and we can follow up with the developer about those as well. So we'll get back to you on those.
Okay, so, yeah, so, oh, they've disappeared. Caroline, do you have anything to add at this point?
Thank you to the warden. Certainly, we're happy to as well attend that site visit just to review the trees and the foundation and how the road design might work. With the respect to the setbacks, maybe just add some additional comments and we can review further. The proposed multi-residential block that would back onto your property, it's proposed to maintain the required rear yard setback in the zoning bylaw. There is no relief being sought on that setback where it would abut your property. With respect to the townhouse, which is block 20, that's the other lot that was intended to back onto your rear lot line. In discussions with county staff, the developer is actually proposing to add a pedestrian walkway in that location. So there would be a walkway as opposed to a dwelling, and then the dwelling would come after that. There is a reduction for clarity on that townhouse on the side yard setback to 1.5 meters, which is a fairly standard setback we've seen across West Perth and all the other lower tier municipalities in the county of Perth for townhouses. But again, certainly if we meet on site, we're happy to go through those details with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also to say that Dory Woolwich would also, we could meet with all of you at the same time, or we can have two different meetings, whatever works best for you and your neighbor.
Okay, I got a couple of counselors with hands up. First, Counselor Wright.
Bruce, there's no water sewer or storm sewer connection going up Dungy Lane, or is there storm sewer?
Sometimes these buttons are elusive. Through a warden to you, Doug. There's nothing there now. There's been no design, and there certainly will have to be storm sewer. I don't believe there'll be any sanitary sewer or water main go up there unless we deem that's needed for a loop. It's really premature to answer that question, is what I'm really saying.
Okay, I just want, because when they put a new road in, it's a deep dig. When they just put a surface road in, it's just, when Dory came to me, I said to her, ask to have the sidewalk on her side of the street, because I knew that the road 66 feet, it could be offset the street so that it's closer to one side than the other. But she didn't come to that conclusion after she came and talked to me. So I just wanted to make sure.
That's one of the things we would look at. I don't think there'll be sanitary sewer, which is normally the deep dig. But there could be a bit of storm sewer, and there may well be a bit of water main, both of which are generally shallow. And we could offset the road / sidewalk so that there is a little bit more space. But I think by putting the sidewalk on the east side of the road, that would be beneficial to that close house on the west side, if that's the decision that's made.
Okay, Caroline Baker has her hand up. Before I go to her, Counselor Kasenberg had his hand up. I'm gonna let him make his comment, because maybe she can answer two things.
Not a comment, just actually a question for clarity. So Bruce, there was a reference to 66 feet of road allowance. What proportion of that road allowance is intended to be used from a width perspective to build the actual road that's proposed there?
So we're going back to feet now. That the road surface, the asphalt surface, is 28 feet if you convert the 8.5 meters, roughly. And the curb on both sides of that is about 18 inches, or about 1.5 feet. So we're up to 29.5 feet. And then there's a bit of a boulevard and a 5-foot sidewalk. So we're probably using less than half of the road allowance width, or a little more than half of the road allowance width for the sidewalk and the curb. And there's boulevards and green spaces behind. So even if the road is in the middle of the road, there's close to 5 meters, like almost, I'm going to say 13 to 16 feet. I'd have to figure it out, on the west side of green space going up to where their close house is to the property.
Okay, Caroline, you had your hand up there earlier.
Oh, yes, thank you. Through the warden, I just want to provide a bit of further detail on the services required in the extension of Dungy Lane. Per the MTE functional servicing report, neither sanitary nor water is going to extend north on Dungy Lane. So it would end where the proposed residential units are and not come up north to Huron Road. There likely will be obviously some stormwater work to deal with the drainage from the road and the sidewalks to ensure it's appropriately conveyed and kept to the development property. And this would assist in limiting some of the grading works through the question from the councillor.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. Nothing more on that. We're gonna move on. Do we have Razin back on the screen there at all? I'm not seeing him. Okay, let's try Sylvain Larrabee.
Does not appear to be on the attendee list.
Okay, let me just check a little further, see what else we got. And do we have a Teresa Schoonerwood on there?
We do.
Morning, Teresa. We're ready for your comments.
Good morning, Warden and Councillor. My name is Teresa Schoonerwood. I represent a Mitchell resident as well as a business owner of Mitchell bordering on the development that is planned. I have a lot of concerns that need to be addressed. Mainly, the number one concern is that since 2018, when this was all presented to council here in town, and we had addressed our concerns, all of those that had addressed our concerns have never once been informed of the comings and goings until that sign went up 2 weeks ago. So we felt very broadsided by that. There definitely should be some more hands-on follow-up with those who are concerned with the upcoming construction. With that said, I have a few points to touch on. Number one, this roadway. At the time in 2018, when it was concerned, there was potential. And as our council members, they should be able to plan ahead, just like I can see as a resident. We had Home Street installed going into our landfill. We had open property across from Home Street that had no tree line affected. There would be no questions on how wide you wanted the road. If you wanted storm sewers, if you wanted water and sewer put in, the potential would be there. The cost, of course, would have been at the hands of those developing the area plant. So that could have gone through no problem if the land was assumed and purchased. We also have West Street at the very far end. At that point in time, there was potential to run that across the highway. No problems, no address of tree lines or imposing neighboring properties. So those are my number one concerns. Now, those potentials are all gone because construction has happened since. Number two, anybody do any studies on our landfill capacity? Are we going to be able to potentially support all this new residential incoming to our town? Number two, our schools, are they going to support the coming of possible new students to attend our school boards? Is the bus lines going to be able to support transporting these kids to the school? Because as a parent of a student, I already see the struggles of having enough workers to transport and run our buses. Where else did I want to touch on? The traffic flow, just a quick input there. How does one study a traffic flow of the coming out on that street when the street does not exist. Sight lines are a huge problem. It was addressed by a couple of paramedics in 2018 that the crest in that hill, and as a business owner here and as my neighboring neighbors see themselves, that crest in that hill, you do not know somebody is coming until you pull out and it's too late. So that is a huge, huge concern, more so on the traffic study than what the actual street will bring back and forth in my eyes. Rail traffic closure. I heard rumor of a railway being closed. To me, that is something that should not even be a yes. It's a no answer. We shouldn't be closing down our railways. That is something we need. Also, I got so many things I want to touch on. Agricultural land. We have perfect agricultural land, and I know as a county, you guys are all about our agriculture. Why are we developing an agricultural area when we have so many other areas within our municipality that have not been finished developing? Why not finish what we've started before we start something new? Taxes are taxes, but you can gain taxes elsewhere by disrupting agricultural land. And last but not least, green space. Green space is huge. It's something we, as a small municipality, strive on. Why are we not incorporating a green space area neighboring all the industrial sections to divide a potential residential area amongst a industrial commercial division? We should not be using that memorial garden as a green space. That green space was designed for the buildings that were already existing. This is a whole new expansion. It should have its own designated green space instead of borrowing somebody else's to apply to it. So yes, running a green space running east and west behind the south side of these industrial commercial properties, 100% should be considered in all of this. I think that is the main.
Thank you, Teresa. We're kind of getting short on time here.
Yep, thank you.
So you made some valid points. Does Bruce or Caroline or Susanna want to address any of these at this point in time?
Thank you very much.
See a no from Bruce, Caroline, or Susanna?
I think sure. Thank you very much, Teresa, for attending the public meeting. And I'm learning from you that there has been a disruption in the process as you were anticipating. And I'm just getting, we've been reviewing the application, but I wasn't aware of the conversations that were had in 2018 until just recently. So I'm hearing that has been frustrating for you, and I appreciate your feedback. With regards to the landfill capacity and alternative road accesses and schools, all of those concerns, they're all incredibly important. I appreciate your concern for the community and that you're attending the public meeting to make us aware of that. From the planning department's position, those issues would be outside of the scope of this proposal for residential development. And perhaps after the meeting we can talk further if you would like to give us more feedback about that. We have certainly are not familiar with any discussions with the railway about not continuing the rail service. The railway has provided comments through the circulation of the plan of subdivision. And those are the two representatives that the warden has been inviting to the meeting are both representatives from the rail line. So their comments have been received. The received from them is with regards to the existing rail line and ensuring that any noise from the rail line is mitigated with the plan of subdivision. So that in my mind, I'm thinking that there isn't any concern with regards to the rail line not continuing. And then finally, with regards to green space and parkland, I think your comments are relevant for this file. And we'll follow up with the developer and the municipality with regards to that issue.
Thanks, Susanna. Caroline, did you want to add anything at this point?
To the warden, I would just certainly respond that we'll work with Ms. Reed with respect to the parkland comments. Just also want to add, I believe you had a comment about the loss of agricultural land. Certainly this is currently land that's not built upon, but maybe just to note that it is in the settlement area of Mitchell, designated residential, intended to accommodate the projected growth that was forecasted when the official plan was prepared. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. Council have any questions at this point? Councilor McDermott.
Just a quick question. Teresa, where are you located in relation to this project, if you would please?
My business is literally right next door to Mike Foster and Dory Woollage.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Councilor Hurd, your hand was up.
I become incredibly concerned when I hear sight lines, entrances onto busy roads. As a resident of the Selfie Stope Ward, there's a couple areas we're plagued with this. There's other areas within the county where traffic and accidents have become a nightmare. I have concerns. It sounds very legit with the entranceway and sight lines. So that's something that's in my mind right now, for sure. We're becoming overwhelmed in the rural. At the end of the day, I do believe development needs to continue to happen in the already established towns and cities. Because when we just use little hamlets and we put all that extra traffic on the road, and that's another issue. If we can keep people working where they live, that helps. But this sightline issue, if there is people out buzzing around, we're seeing expansion in Goddard. So I'm suspecting people will be moving in there and traveling. So if there is a little more study that needs to be done there, we better get it right now or do something different. That's what I got to say. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? I only have one comment after hearing all that. There was some good points made. But with regards to the railway, we can't make decisions based on rumors. I would be very surprised if that rail line closed. I actually had to stop twice on that rail, or crossing that rail line yesterday, hauling beans for trains.
Every day, training day.
Anyway, okay, if nothing else, I have a motion here. Oops. Council receives the West WP 2201 Plan of Subdivision submitted by 2729988 Ontario Inc. West Mitchell Developments Report. And the council receives the comments from the public for consideration regarding the WP 2201 Plan of Subdivision submitted by 2729988 Ontario Inc. West Mitchell Developments. Moved by Councillor McKenzie.
Can I make a comment as well, but I will support that.
So let's get the motion on the floor and you can make all the comments you want. All right. So you're gonna move the motion?
Yes.
So Councillor McKenzie moves the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilhelm. Councillor McKenzie.
Okay, just some, because I saw more names up there than what had spoke, so I was kind of holding back. And I've got several points here. I don't know where to start, but first of all, we talk about the engineering and the road and the sight lines. There have been reputable engineers involved in this plan of subdivision from day one. And I certainly value our municipal engineers that we have used for basically all of our engineering and planning projects in West Perth, in DM Ross, and in particular, Bruce Potter. My concern is they have reviewed what the developer, his engineers have come up with, and he has agreed with them. And I think that speaks words for what's going on. Most of the rest of the comments we have already touched on. The road, Dungy Lane, has been on the Mitchell plan going back to about the 1800s, so it's not new. And I did find interesting, I think it was Bruce's comments, and Doug also made the comment, the 66-foot road right away, but we can also move that road, tweak it within that 66 feet. So I think that's something that we would be willing to look at. There was a comment, like the settlement area, it is in the Mitchell designated settlement area where this is happening. It's not anything new. The comment that Mrs. Skinnerwood made about our landfill, and I gotta find where I wrote that down. The current cell, and there's future cells that we can develop at our domestic landfill in Mitchell. The current cell was to be full by 2019, but through diversion and recycling, the latest estimate is that cell will last us to 2027. So these are all things that we have looked at as Mitchell develops. I just want to comment, it's kind of a balancing act for residential expansion and industry. And certainly, I don't think anybody on West Perth Council wants to see us as a total residential community, which would end up being a bedroom community for people that work in another municipality. It's a balancing act to have industry and residents. And certainly the cry that we're getting from industry now is they need the workers. The problem is the workers will come, but they need a place to stay. So certainly there's a problem, not only with our municipality, but with every municipality, but we do have to have a spot for workers to stay. And whether we always say we want affordable housing, we want attainable housing, and we need a variety of housing. And certainly this subdivision addresses all of that. I have another few quotes, but I think Bruce has done a good job, and Carolyn as well as Suzanne, in kind of highlighting them. But I think the main thing is that we want to work with the residents that it's involved, but this has been something that's been on the books for a long, long time. So I'll just end it there.
Okay, other comments? We have a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. Those in favor? And that is carried, almost unanimous. Carried. Okay. Next, we have draft plan of subdivision Perth East 2101 by Percon Developments. And I've got so many pieces of paper in front of me, I can't even post the plan. And I believe this is Melissa. We're back, Melissa. So
I'm back
we're ready
on.
for the Percon one.
Okay, let me just share my screen. Do you see this?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is a public meeting pertaining to the draft plan of subdivision 21-01 by Percon Development Inc. And it's an industrial subdivision just in Perth East, just in Mornington Ward. So the subject property is located at the corner of line 61 and Perth Road 131 south of Milverton in the Mornington Ward of the Township of Perth East. Percon Development Inc. is proposing to develop a portion of the subject property for an industrial subdivision. So a bit of a background here. Percon Development submitted applications for an official plan amendment and a plan of subdivision on March 21st, 2021, in conjunction with a proposal to redevelop 35 hectares or approximately 1/2 of the agricultural lands into industrial subdivision. The planning department reviewed the application for completeness and at the time identified a number of studies that were required to consider the applications complete. Following this, the developer advised the Township of Perth East by letter dated June 15th, 2021, that they were seeking the support of Perth East Council for a minister's zoning order. Perth East Council supported the application for minister's zoning order at their June 22nd council meeting and forwarded the resolution to Perth County Council. On November 23rd, 2021, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing made the MZO Ontario Regulation 783/21. The regulation was filed with the Officer of the Registrar of Regulations on November 24th, 2021. So this is the plan of subdivision as proposed. The total area of the property is 74.45 hectares. And the area proposed for the subdivision plan is 35 hectares. The proposed schematic draft plan of subdivision includes lots, which are 5.6 hectares, and blocks totaling 26, just over 26, closer to 27 hectares. The remainder of the lands are roads, stormwater management reserves, and a woodlot. Excuse me, the remnant parcel is proposed to the south, is proposed to be 39.85 hectares. The subject lands have a frontage of approximately 546 meters along line 61 to the north, and split frontage along Perth Road 131 of approximately 289 meters plus 129 meters, and the depth of approximately almost 590 meters to the south. The subject lands are bisected by the McCloy Branch drain. The subject land currently consists of a house and 2 agricultural related buildings. Currently, access to the house is located on Perth Road 131. The subject lands are flat with a woodlot located at the northeast corner. The woodlot contains a wetland that has been identified by the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. Surrounding land uses include agricultural uses to the south and west, recreation, natural resources environment, and vacant special policy area agricultural lands with permitted industrial use across the road. The area in between the settlement area of Milverton and the proposed subdivision along Road 131 contains a mixture of single-family dwellings, small industrial developments, and remnant agricultural lands. So the Minister zoning MZO rezones the land to industrial zone M1-35. As shown on the map, which I will follow up with on the next slide. And the rezoning permits M1 uses, uses identified within the agricultural commercial zone or ACM zone of the Perth zoning bylaw, an animal clinic, a farm equipment establishment, farm supply outlet, and a stormwater management facilities. So these are all the permitted uses. The Percon MZO changes land uses on the subject property, essentially from agricultural to employment/industrial uses. Excuse me, while preserving existing natural heritage woodlot on the northeast corner of the property, and at the same time provides additional protection through the introduction of the adjacent land zone next to the said woodlot and the drainage creek. Let me just show you the mapping. This is the map of the MZO. Excuse me. The area of the site at the northeast will remain Natural Resource Environment Zone 2, as shown on the mapping. The MZO rezones the land adjacent to NRE2, as well as along the drain to adjacent land zone. That's that kind of wiggly line through the center, to prohibit any buildings or structure except as permitted within the adjacent land overlay area under Perth zoning bylaw. So this area is also regulated through the Conservation Authorities Act, and more specifically by Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. And I'm just going to briefly show you the uses. So these are the uses that are essentially being permitted by the MZO. So on the left-hand side, you see like all the industrial uses that are permitted. And on the right-hand side, these uses are also permitted. These are all like ACM uses. So like a wide variety of uses, ranging from a motor vehicle washing establishment, lab or research facility, contractor's yard, any industrial uses with, that are involved in manufacturing, assembling, processing, office uses, accessory retail uses, public works uses. And then on the right-hand side, you have, farm-related uses, animal clinic, grain and storage facilities, farm-related welding business, grain storage, farm storage warehousing. Like I said, a wide variety of uses. I think this concludes my public meeting presentation, and I would be happy to elaborate further in terms of our subdivision analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. You want to just stop? Yep, there we go.
Yeah.
Any questions for Melissa at this point in time? Not seeing any hands. We do have a couple of delegations. Number one would be Steve Jefferson, and he's the manager of land use planning for K Smart Associates. So we get him up here. You there, Steve?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, thank you, Warden Atchison and members of council. And thank you to Melissa Gassick for her detailed overview of this proposal. We have reviewed the staff report and are in support of the recommendations that have been provided. Just one extra detail for your information. The engineers at K Smart Associates have been working on the detailed engineering drawings for this project. The most recent submission was August 5th of this summer to BM Ross for their review. And we're getting very close to having the overall design for the subdivision completed. So we're looking forward to moving ahead and getting these lands developed so that we can support the economy in Perth East and Perth County. And I'll take any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Steve from council? Don't see any hands. Okay, we have a Bill Miller. See you up there? What's there?
Yeah, it's good.
Morning, Bill. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so we're ready for your presentation.
Good morning, Warden, councilors, and support staff. I made a few notes, so I'll be reading from my notes. First off, I asked Perth County Council to immediately approve this plan. I'm a resident of Mornington Ward, and our families lived here for 200 plus years, and I live at currently farm in close proximity to the proposed development. Today, I'm also representing the Melbourne District Rod and Gun Club, which is directly across the road from Percon. And I have been given approval by our executive, which I'm part of, to support this application. First, I'd like to give council a little bit of history of the area, which I think is very important in helping you make your decision. Milverton, once upon a time, had 3 feed mills, 3 automotive dealerships, 2 farm equipment dealerships, 2 machine shops, 1 egg grading station, 1 boat factory, a furniture factory that employed 100 plus people, and they've already lost a bank. And these are just some of the commercial and industrial businesses that have disappeared from that location, specifically because there was never an official plan for the development of industrial and commercial area. And that posed a very economic impact upon the Mornington Ward and the township of Melverton, because those types of buildings industries and services provide the larger tax base. The site area that is proposed is ideally located. It's bordered by, currently bordered by three commercial establishments, actually. Perth East has their main yard. County of Perth has a yard, and there's the Stone Place. Also, line 61 carries a high voltage 27,000 volt three-phase line. The line 61 and road 31 already carry glass optic fiber, and the lagoon, which was developed back in the 1960s, was a very high capacity lagoon, because at that time also in Milverton, there was cheese factories and a dairy factories, which required a lot of space for effluents. So the fact that we have a property that is located along these easy accesses minimizes any disruption to the present town of Milverton. It also provides it being in that location by at least having about a 500-meter zone separate from where housing is located in Milverton. And there's mainly bush area, which is also classified as environmentally sensitive in that area, which precludes that it will not be developed. The second thing I'd like to talk about is the social aspect of approving this.
Actually, I'm gonna maybe just stop you there, Bill. You're basically allowed that 3 to 4 minutes. We pretty well surpassed that. The one gist I get out of this, you definitely support this. And I think all of council's heard that loud and clear. If you had a quick point, I'll allow it, but we're not gonna drag this on.
The other point is we have 1,200 families of the Amish community. And those young people are looking for places to work locally. The end result is the families are moving out, and that's my last point.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm assuming council doesn't have any questions for Mr. Miller or Melissa at this point. Okay, well, I have a motion here. The council receives the report prepared by the planner dated October 6, 2022, entitled Draft Plan of Subdivision, Perth East 21-01 by Percon Investments, Inc., care of Anthony Roth, affecting lands described as Concession 2, Part Lot 6, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East, 6332 Perth Road 131, for information. And that council receives the comments from the public for consideration regarding the draft plan of subdivision PE 21-01 by Percon Developments, Inc., pertaining to the lands at Concession 2, Part Lot 6, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East, 6332 Perth Road 131, while reserving the decision to approve at the regular council meeting at Perth County Council being held October 6, 2022, and that will be just further down on our agenda. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McDermott, Deputy Warden Higgins. Last chance for comments or questions. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, and thank you for all that have participated. Moving on to the next one. And that is a public meeting report. And I believe Pune is doing this one, am I not correct? Morning, Pune.
Good morning, Warden Aitchison and council members and members of public. With your permission, I will share my screen now for the presentation. Right, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Great. All right, so the purpose of this application is to provide information about the official plan amendment that has been submitted by Mr. Solomon Martin on behalf of Mr. Bowman for the property located on 4348 line 72 in Mornington Ward in Township of Perth East. The subject land is located at the southwest corner of Road 124 and line 72, just to the east of Newton. The lot area is approximately 40 hectares and it has a frontage of 305 meters along Perth line 72. The owner is proposing to enlarge the existing farm machinery manufacturing operation as part of the secondary farm occupation and increase the number of farm employees. So under the official plan of Perth County, the land is designated as agricultural and this operation would be considered a secondary farm operation since the main use of the farm is cash crop. The manufacturing shop uses CNC machining, which is a new welding technology really, that it produces small pieces of machinery used in various types of farming machinery. And then Mr. Bowman sells these products to the nearby farmers. The manufacturing operation is in the cluster of the existing house and accessory buildings. There's also 7 parking spaces currently available on this lot. All of these buildings and accessory structures are connected by a common driveway that connects to Perth line 72. The remainder of the land, as I mentioned, is agricultural and it's cash crop. Surrounding land uses are all agricultural in the area. Currently the shop has an area of 512 square meters and the owner would like to demolish really the current shop or the shed and build a new building which will occupy approximately 929 square meters. The maximum floor area permitted by the official plan of the county for secondary farm occupation is 375 square meters. And also the restriction allows for only 2 farm employees and the owner would like to propose an increase to 5. So really to recap on what the official plan amendment is required to recognize is that the floor area that will be increased to 929 square meters from the permitted 375 square meters and to also recognize 5 farm employees, whereas 2 farm employees are permitted. Now, there's a criteria set by the province of Ontario through the provincial policy statement that states that the purpose of this proposed agricultural-related uses and on-farm diversified uses, they have to be compatible with surrounding agricultural operation. It also explains that on-farm diversified uses means uses that are secondary to the principal agricultural use of the property and are limited in the area. Also, one of the definitions that has been used is that the producers, they have to be value-added agricultural products. It is important for the prime agricultural uses to really be developed to reach their potential, but at the same time, to be appropriate in scale and be within the agricultural criteria that it will not have an adverse effect on the surrounding agricultural lands. Now, to monitor the scale, OMAPRA has a guideline which further explains these criteria. Provincial policy statement allows for 2% of the total site area allocated to OFDUs. So it allows for 2%. The applicant is proposing 0.97%, less than 1%, which is 3,898 square meters. It also allows for 20% of that 2% to be allocated to the total building area of that OFDUs, which equals to 1,618 square meters. And the applicant is proposing approximately 11% instead of 20%, which is 929 square meters. In terms of zoning of the land, it is zoned agricultural as well. The use of secondary farm occupation is a permitted use. However, there is similar limits as the official plan limits is 375 square meters allowed And the outdoor storage of 2,000 square meters allows for the secondary farm occupation. It also allows for 2 full-time employees. So there is that zoning bylaw amendment application that is going in conjunction with the official plan amendment to allow for conformity to the Perth East zoning bylaw. The applicant is also aware that site plan application would be required. And in terms of public engagement, I would like to acknowledge that so far, out of the agencies and the public, we have received Enbridge Gas letter that they are just want to know that the applicant, when they go for site plan application, they have to be aware of the gas line. The applicant is already aware of that. And I also want to mention that the Perth East Council has endorsed these official plan amendment recommendation, and I will discuss that later during the council meeting. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Pune. Questions for Pune on this application? And if we could stop screen sharing, then I can see faces again. Perfect. Okay, questions for Pune on this? Not seeing any hands go up. Must have done a nice job of presenting that, Pune. I have a motion here. Council receives the report entitled Application for County Official Plan Amendment number 210 by Solomon Martin, affecting lands described as 4348, line 72, lot 11, concession 7, Warrington Ward, Township of Perth East. And that council receives the comments from the public for consideration regarding the official plan amendment number 210 to the County of Perth official plan pertaining to the lands at lot 11, concession 7, Warrington Ward, 4348, line 72, Township of Perth East, while reserving the decision to approve at the regular meeting of council to be held on October 6, 2022, which is just a little further down our agenda. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Kassenberg moves, Deputy Warden Haggett seconds. Last chance for comments and questions. Those in favor? Carried. Perfect. Okay. Gotta go back to my, oh, where'd my, there it is. I'm stealing it from me. Other business while we're in a public meeting. Shouldn't really be any. There shouldn't be any announcements. And I need a motion to adjourn the public meeting at approximately 10:38. Moved by Councillor Kellum, second by Councillor McDermott. Those in favor? That's carried. Perfect. So we've concluded with the bulk of the planning. I am going to say we're going to take a 5-minute break. I see one member of council already standing, so 5-minute break, maybe 7 minutes. I'll let you go to 7, and we'll reconvene, and we're going to come back with staff reports starting up. Okay, we're back in business. I got 3 councillors there. Well, there's one of them. There's 2 of them. I'm sure Councillor Matt Duncan will be back here in momentarily. Okay, we're going to move on to staff reports. Oh, yes, sorry. We have to reconvene into regular session at 10:48, motion by Councilor McDermott, Deputy Warden Eggetts, those in favor, carried. We have a delegation that was added, sorry. So the delegation from Kate Willis, MHBC Planning on behalf of Lunar Group, Inc. for information. And are they here? You
remember this was the way.
Hi, are you waiting for me? I was
Yes,
just
we are.
coming in. Okay.
Listen.
Good morning, Warden and members of council. My name's Kate Wills. I'm an associate with MHBC, and I'm here to represent the applicant Lunar Group on their extension request for their plan of subdivision. We've worked closely with staff, in particular Susanna Reed, and she's been very helpful through the situation. And staff has evaluated our extension request and have come up with a number of conditions that they'd like to impose as well for the 5-year extension. So that is all written in the report in front of you. And I'm just here to speak in support of the request for the extension and confirm that we agree with staff's recommendations. And I'm here to answer questions if need be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Now we will be dealing with this very shortly. So just don't run away. We may need you back on to answer some questions. If that's
That
fine.
sounds good. Thank you. Yep, I'll be here.
Okay, thanks. So now we're gonna do some staff reports. Well, actually, first I need a motion to receive delegation from Kate Willis, MH Planning on behalf of Lunar Group Incorporated. Councilor Wilhelm, Councilor McDermott. Those in favor? That's carried. Now we're moving on to staff reports, and I have Marion here.
Perfect. All right.
Good to go.
All right. So thank you through the warden, members of council. I have just brought for you the recommendation for to temporarily suspend the current vaccination policy and the bylaw for council. Basically, due to the current environment, which is always evolving, at this point, it seems prudent to suspend the testing policy for the non-union staff. As you've seen in the report, our paramedic services under Directive 6, the testing was halted much earlier in the year. We have continued with the non-union testing program, recognizing when we did benchmarking with other municipalities and lower tiers, a lot of the policies have been suspended at this point in time. And with new employees coming on, we continue to inform them about the policy. I mean, everyone right now, they continue to fill out their screening form and they select whether or not they can declare themselves vaccinated or not for any other reason. And we let them know about the testing program and that, you know, it may or may not continue depending on council. So as you can see in the report, we're just looking for your endorsement for the non-union. And then I guess we would do a vote for the council bylaw.
Questions for Marion? Don't see any hands. First motion here is county council receives the vaccination policy and vaccination bylaw for council update report. Moved by Councilor Wilhelm. I know you got a question. Do you want a second?
I'll second it, yeah.
Second by Deputy Warden Eggetts.
Not a question. I just want a little bit more added to the motion and say that we're going to suspend the current policy. So that's actually in the motion. I don't think that was. The motion should speak for itself.
It was not added to it. So if you'd
No.
like to add it.
If we want to add it, we can.
I'd like that to be added.
Okay, so is the mover in favor of that? And the seconders in favor of that? And that motion now will receive the vaccinated policy and suspend the current policy.
Staff policy?
And that includes staff?
Yes.
Staff policy, okay.
Okay, questions or comments now? Councilor Hurley.
Yeah, no, through your warden. How common is it to suspend a policy within municipal politics, whether county or local? Suspension of policies.
I mean, through the warden, I wouldn't say that it's overly common. It can be repealed and then it would just be brought back. In some ways, it's almost easier. Staff know what to expect if it's suspended, so it would just resume as it was. Whereas when you bring something back completely new, it could be different. So I think it just gives a little bit of confidence in terms of where we would go in the future potentially.
Good, okay, thank you.
Other questions, Councillor Katzenberg?
Just want to clarify, if I might, the intent of the additional clause for consideration. Is the intent to also suspend the policy for union staff? Because I think this report speaks to non-union staff, does it not?
Correct. So through the warden, for unionized staff, they follow Directive 6. So the testing did conclude when the government suspended that under Directive 6. And I do have the date in the report, but it's just escaping me at the moment.
Annette.
I just want to clarify for the revision to the resolution that it also includes the outside service providers. So I don't think we referenced them as contractors. We referenced it as outside service providers. So for the wording, if that can be confirmed.
So I believe we should add that to the motion as well. Favor, Councillor Wilhelm?
Yes.
That'd be word negative. So that's now including outside service. Which would be people like the people working on our elevator. Etc. Okay. Any more questions or comments?
Mr. Warden, just as a point of order, could I get this resolution read back into the record so we have what it reads now?
I'm gonna have to let Tyler do that.
Sure. So for the warden, resolution reads that county council receives a vaccination policy and vaccination bylaw for council update report. And that council suspends the council, outside service workers and non-union staff vaccination policies.
And to make sure everyone's clear as what Councillor Katzenberg asked before, the unionized are under Direction 6, which was suspended a while ago. Okay, any more questions or comments on that motion? Thank you, Tyler. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. See you later.
And next is our corporate communications update, Sarah.
Thank you, Warden Aitchison and members of council. Sean's going to assist me with putting the presentation on the screen. Perfect. Thank you so much, Sean. So before you is an activity report related to corporate communications activities for Q2 and Q3. I won't go into all of the details of the report, but I've prepared a presentation with a few highlights that I'd like to share with you this morning. Next slide. For Public Works, we've worked together on a number of different projects during this time period. New construction signage was installed at all projects this season. You can see an example of this on the slide in Millbank. And the goal of these signs was to help inform the public on whose project this was and who they could contact should they have any questions or concerns. This was paired with our new section on our website as well that also contained information on seasonal projects. Additionally, working with Public Works, understanding that we are in the midst of harvest season, we've created some messaging that's appearing on roadside signages, as well as on our social media, just cautioning drivers to use care around slow-moving farm vehicles. Next slide. Another significant Public Works project that's on the go that you are all aware of is our campus construction project. So we've developed some internal communications to keep staff up to date on project timelines, as well as a bit of education as to what's going on, because it is quite interesting adding an elevator to an old building, as well as just letting staff know if there's anything they need to be aware of in terms of the construction schedule, and a sneak peek of some of the behind the scenes photos of the construction that's occurring. If you've at all been to the courthouse recently, you will also have seen our construction posters to help inform the public that there is dust and work happening, but that it is with the goal of modernizing our courthouse campus for the future. Next up, we have the new official plan. This is an ongoing and complex project. Over this period of time, communications also assisted with a number of different key initiatives. a regular member of the project team, we work together collaboratively to put a call out for focus group members when they were doing that recruitment, as well as assets for the upcoming natural environment public engagement, which should be launching in the next week or so. On the website, we've had a number of different other additions. The archives has their weekly treasures campaign ongoing in celebration of their 50th anniversary. So we're publishing blog posts, and we also have a promotional campaign, which you may have seen on social media, profiling some of these great treasures that our archives has in their collection. Next, we have our Cultivating Opportunity Grant Program. Council will be aware that this program underwent a redesign recently, and communications supported this through public engagement, consultation work, graphics, promotion, because applications are currently open. Also creating an intake form for these applications to ensure that the public has a way to apply to this program. Additional divisional support was also provided for a number of different projects over this time period. We had our Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee recruitment, as well as the Joint Compliance Audit Committee recruitment for all of our lower tier partners, our forestry bylaw update, and other various new pages and updates to the website over this period of time. Next up, we use social media as a way to raise awareness on a number of different factors over the summertime. You'll remember there was an open air fire ban in effect, as well as a heat warning due to some drought conditions. So we ensured we got that messaging out to the public through our website, public notices to the media, as well as through social media. We also utilize social media as a way to acknowledge and promote significant dates. This year, we had some promotional material available on Pride Month, as well as the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Aside from these public promotional campaigns, one of the other important pieces of work that communications is involved in is strategic initiatives. And what you're seeing here on your screen, and I know it's quite small, is a swim lane process map. And we've been working with our planning division on a number of different process maps with the goal of developing communications materials for the public and for applicants. As you can see just from this map alone for one of our application processes, there's many players involved, they're complex, and the goal is to distill this down to a digestible format for applicants and developers to walk them through these processes and seek efficiencies where possible between all participants. The photo above is actually a workshop we held with our lower tier partners on September 22nd in this room to review these process maps and determine if there were any efficiencies that could be sought. I've heard nothing but positive outcomes from this, and I understand that already there's some great discussions happening between lower tier partners to make these processes easier for everyone. Next, this is sort of a bit of a catch-all slide, but I wanted to make sure we pointed out a few additional things. And the top, you'll see a new program map for emergency management that communications assisted with. We're also continuing with our monthly county updates and non-union staff meetings. And the other item I wanted to note is advancement on the diversity, equity, and inclusion file. So Perth County is an employer partner with the Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion. So monthly we circulate newsletters that are produced by CCDI that allow staff to participate in the webinars that are upcoming and take on any educational opportunities that are available. Our charter was approved in 2021, and staff are considering charter values in all of their project planning. So some examples of this and how it's occurred over this time period. Planning through their stakeholder focus group recruitment was really seeking to round out the stakeholder focus group with additional members to be more representative of a diverse group of people. Another example would be legislative services. Through the redesign of the grant program, we also had an eye to designing the evaluation criteria such that programs and projects that apply to this program will be able to receive credit if their projects align with the values of the charter. And then earlier we saw some examples on social media where we've worked with our lower tier partners, regional partners, to promote diverse holidays and dates of recognition. This is all through the efforts of the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan that everybody is involved in. And lastly, upcoming, corporately, we're working on a signature update for email signatures to include items like pronouns, and also working on a land acknowledgement for Perth County that will be coming forward. That's everything I have for the items I wanted to highlight on the slides, but I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thanks, Sarah. Questions for Sarah? Councilor Katzenberg.
It may be for Sarah or it may be for CAO Wolf with regards to the DEI lens that has been talked about as part of our corporate commitment. I'm wondering if we shouldn't start seeing DEI implications in the reports that staff deliver to council.
Thank you, Councillor Kasenberg. Through the warden, I can certainly discuss with legislative services. We have the community engagement section that has been added to the lower portion of all staff reports. So certainly it could be a conversation to have a similar section added for DEI considerations if that would suit.
Other questions? Comments? Don't see any hands. Motion, County Council receives the corporate communications update Q2 and Q3 report. Moved by Councilor Katzenberg. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Wilhelm. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Sarah. So we're moving on again, and we're back into planning. A heavy day for planning, and the first one will be the official plan amendment number 209, and that is Melissa.
Thank you again. Just share the remainder of the presentation. Does everybody see this?
Yeah. Yes, I should say.
Okay, good. Okay, so we're back on. So this is the slide again. I just want to, as a refresher, I have zoomed in on the left-hand side to see like the house itself and, you know, the proximity to the drain and where the septic bed is. So in terms of, I have highlighted the relevant provincial policy statements and, you know, the most important items in each and every policy directive. A site visit was conducted by planning on July 21st of 2002 and by Robert Gibson Consulting Services, the consultant who prepared the agricultural aggregate impact assessment. They conducted their visit on December 3rd of 2021. The consultant observed that the general area, the central area of the property rather, has been leveled and graded and a layer of soil applied. Additionally, the sides of the property show signs of being mechanically sloped, both observations being indications of site disturbance activities, which the consultant believes followed extraction activities. Currently, the subject lands are vegetated mostly with grasses and small shrubs that have been established naturally over the graded lands resembling fallow agricultural land. It appears that the site has been naturalized following an extractive use and has similar soil capabilities as other farmlands within the area, albeit a small, much smaller and significantly sloped. That is less conducive to many types of agriculture currently found in the area. It may be suitable for a niche or specialized agricultural use and is definitely suitable, in my opinion, for rural residents with the appropriate setback as established by the Conservation Authority. So in terms of the provincial policy conformity, there's only mineral aggregate policy sections in the official plan, and also policy 5515.1, which are kind of provide kind of primary directive in terms of compatibility of the proposed use with the adjoining properties. So the OP, as I said, provides direction that the following activities and rehabilitation can convert back to agricultural use. The lands are within a prime agricultural area, and an agricultural designation is appropriate. The policies also recognize that institutional uses have been established over time, and that non-farm residential uses in circumstances where agricultural uses may be impractical or hindered in some way, so that in those particular instances, residential use is compatible with surrounding land uses, in which case the conversion is appropriate. The existing lot is 1.84 hectares and exceeds the minimum prescribed limit of 0.4 hectares in the Perth South zoning bylaw. The former institutional buildings have been removed. So conversion of the use with existing building stock is not possible. That's what the policy 5515 essentially says, to use the existing stock. However, no buildings are present on site. In terms of MDS, this has been considered in order to evaluate potential compatibility with the surrounding agricultural operations. The setback required was deemed to be 175 meters. And the setback was calculated based on assumptions for an unoccupied barn, and the proposed dwelling is 275 meters from the existing barn. The campground use directly to the south of the subject lands is considered a sensitive land use for the purposes of MDS, and presents a greater limitation to a new or expanding livestock operation than the proposed dwelling. It is proposed that the portion of the lot outside of the building envelope be used for agricultural purposes to the extent this is possible. Other requirements from this section 5515.1 include adequate water and sewage services, and access provisions and lot frontage. The review by the Conservation Authority of the proposed dwelling and associate private services indicate that the services and access to the road frontage are all possible with some minor grading needed. So these are some of the images of the site. I just want to highlight the fact that this OPA amendment has been brought in conjunction with a ZBA application. Excuse me. The land is currently zoned institutional, and this use does not, this designation, zoning does not permit a single dwelling. And hence the ZBA is required with the OPA to permit the construction of the dwelling. The proposed rezoning application will be in conformance with the County of Perth official plan upon the approval of this amendment, hopefully. And I believe this is the last slide. So planning has reviewed the submitted materials and correspondence received in relation to the application. The proposed OPA to redesignate the land in order to permit the construction of a single family dwelling is consistent with a 2020 provincial policy statement and conforms to the County of Perth official plan. The proposed rezoning application will be in conformance with the official plan upon the approval of this amendment. This application, in my opinion, represents good planning. And this concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Questions for Melissa on this application? Not seeing any. It's not the stone originally the way it was. That used to be the MTO site. when old number 7 went looping down through St. Mary's and out around and up around through Rannick and Prospect Hill. And since the new highway was provided or built, that facility was shut down and eliminated. That is why that was zoned the way it was. I have a motion here. There's no questions. The Perth County receives report entitled application for county official plan amendment number 209 by Ryland Luby, affecting lands described as Park Lot 26, concession West Mitchell Road, Blanchard Ward, Township of Perth South, 1180 Perth Road 139 for information. And the Perth County Council approves the official plan amendment number 209 to the County of Perth official plan pertaining to the lands of Park Lot 26, concession West Mitchell Road, Blanchard Ward, Township of Perth South, 6870 Road 121, moved by Councillor Kellum, second by Councillor McDermott. Last chance for comments or questions. Those in favor? Carried. Moving on. And Melissa's going to stay with us because we're moving on to the Percon one. You did.
Melissa, if you could unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm just pulling up this presentation, and I think I'm ready. Do you see this?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just gonna kind of, this is just a conformity exercise. I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the important stuff in terms of PPS consistency and official plan conformity, and before going through the subdivision conformity exercise. So due to the virtue of the MZO being rendered by the minister, the lands are being deemed as employment area for the purposes of PPS. The proposed draft plan of subdivision is being reviewed in the light of these, in the light of this decision, and the draft plan of this subdivision is required to be. Draft plan of subdivision is required to be consistent with the provincial policy statement, as is the minister's zoning order. With regards to employment section of the PPS, PPS sections 131 states that the planning authorities shall promote economic development and competitiveness as indicated on the slide. The draft plan of subdivision provides a variety of lot blocks and like in terms of like shapes and sizes ranging from 0.45 hectares to 5.47 hectares, with the intention of creating opportunities for a range of businesses to locate in the subdivision. The draft plan of subdivision aims to expand Milverton's economic base and provide for a market-ready site at a strategic location. As a decision of a minister of the Crown, the MZO also must be consistent with the PPS. However, there's no statutory requirement for an MZO to conform to an official plan with respect to the land subject to the order. This is unlike the Planning Act requirement that says all zoning bylaws must conform to the official plan. So this is the proposed, this is the layout, subdivision layout. And as indicated on the slide, lots 1 to 6 are dedicated to employment, as are blocks 1 to 10. Block 11 is a wood lot, which is in the northeast corner. Block 12 is for stormwater, and others are blocks, let's say 13 to 19 is their temporary turning circle and land reserves. And block 20, which is in the center the smallest block, I would say, as one of the smallest along the creek. That's for the future reservoir. So these are the sort of like tests in terms of you know, whether this application can be recommended for approval. These are the considerations that have been taken into account. And I'm just going to go through them kind of very quickly. So in terms of subdivision process, because the new roads are being created, this was the proper route to take rather than just like simple consents. In terms of making sure that the application is not premature, that there's enough capacity and servicing available. Due to the virtue of the MZO, the land is being considered as an employment area and approved by the minister. And the question of prematurity is thus mute. The applicant has provided a functional servicing and stormwater management report by K-Smart Associates, stating that sufficient provisioning is or will be made available, and BM Potter has reviewed the submission and deemed it acceptable. In terms of making sure that the application is contiguous, which is one of the tests of subdivision compliance, this is the minister in their decision has considered the current development situation to the south of Milverton. Therefore, the contiguity of development need not be further discussed because the ministers, due to the virtue of the MZO order, the lands are not being landlocked. The remainder of the subject land that is being subdivided has frontage on Perth Road 131. That's the southerly portion of the land that is remaining agricultural. And it'll not, any future access to the subdivision will be through the new subdivision streets. The street that provides the access will be developed as a temporary cul-de-sac, thus allowing for future reconfiguration and continuation to the remainder of the lands. In terms of provincial policy and the official plan, the proposed plan of subdivision is consistent with the PPS. The proposed subdivision conforms to the County of Perth official plan due to the MZO, which essentially set the uses of the land. In terms of making sure that the subdivision is consistent and compatible with the land uses in the immediate vicinity, the closest distance between the proposed industrial subdivision and the nearby residential use is approximately 180 meters. This means that for class 1 and 2 industrial uses, the recommended minimums have been provided as indicated in my report. The area of influence for class 2, if proposed in the future and proximity to residential, will be assessed at the site plan stage. And for class 3 industrial uses, if proposed in the future, the recommended minimum will be respected, and also potential influence areas studied if such facilities proposed at the site plan stage. In terms of MDS compatibility, rather, MDS in the case of the subdivision is being considered a settled matter, and any future livestock expansion proposed in the vicinity of the subdivision will have to satisfy MDS2 requirements. The 2 nearby barns, one on the east across Road 131, and the farm property to the west, directly to the west, are separated approximately 534 meters and 269 meters from the subdivision boundaries, respectively. In 2017, the owner of the abutting farm to the west obtained a minor variance approval to reduce the required MDS setback from 204 meters required down to 104 meters to the nearby sensitive land use, which is the municipal use directly across the road and is located 4,709 line 64. Thus, any future livestock expansion of the neighboring barn to the west will be limited by the sensitive land use directly to the north and across the road from from them rather than the subdivision to the east. In terms of roadway frontage, the proposed blocks will have frontage on a network of proposed new public roads, which will interconnect with the existing line 61 and road 131. In terms of making sure that the subdivision doesn't have any adverse on public facilities, utilities and services, and that natural heritage features are protected. The proposal is not anticipated to have any adverse effects on public facilities, utilities or services. The EIS study submitted in conjunction with the subdivision application by Dance Environmental concluded there are significant habitats and woodlot that require protection. And as a result, a condition of draft plan approval has been provided such that the applicant enter into a subdivision agreement with the township and that adequate measures, protection measures are put in the reports, both the subdivision and subsequent site plan approvals that'll follow the subdivision approval. The developer will be required to establish 15 meter setback between the outer edges of the lot lines and the woodland. So along the woodlot and as well as along the creek from the top of the bank. What you see on the right-hand side, that's the reservoir along the creek. Future reservoir, which is block 20, which is kind of located in the center of the subdivision. And this reservoir is also set back appropriately, which includes that 15-meter buffer to the creek. I just wanted to show that on the screen. In terms of water supply and sewage disposal, the applicant has provided a functional servicing report and stormwater management by K-Smart that outlines the proposed methods of water supply and sewage disposal for the proposed subdivision. The report concludes that the development of the proposed subdivision is achievable with full municipal servicing and water supply and sewage disposal as per municipal standards. And lastly, and before recommending to the approval authority, the proposed plan of subdivision be approved, the local municipality needs to be satisfied that adequate services are being provided, as mentioned earlier. I mentioned earlier the report prepared by K-Smart Associates. And the reservoir that you see on the screen. Additionally, a transport impact study by Salvini Consulting has been undertaken in order to understand the transportation context and infrastructure required to support the draft plan of subdivision. The study concluded that turn lanes from both Perth Road 131 and line 61 to the new roads will not be needed or warranted. The intersection is currently operating at acceptable levels and is expected to do so, continue so under 2030 future traffic conditions. So in conclusion, planning is recommending that the county council approves the application for a draft plan of subdivision. And this concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Questions for Melissa on this application? We've been through it thoroughly a couple times. Okay, I've got a motion here. The Perth County Council receives the report prepared by the planner dated October 6, 2022, entitled Draft Plan of Subdivision, PE 21-01 by Percon Investments, Inc., care of Anthony Roth, affecting lands described as concession 2, part lot 6, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East, 6332 Perth Road 131 for information. And the Perth County Council approves the application for draft plan of subdivision number PE 2101 by Percon Developments, Inc., care of Anthony Roth, affecting lands described as concession 2, part lot 6, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East, Road 131, subject to the following conditions. And I have 4 pages of conditions here. So I'm gonna ask for council's permission to not read all 23 of those conditions, or we'll be here another 20 minutes. They're all in your report. They're on the website. If anybody has any questions on those, we're certainly willing to hear it. But if somebody wanted to move that and second that without me having to read 23 conditions, that'd be Councilor McDermott and Deputy Warden Higgins. Last chance for comments or questions. Councilor Hurlick.
I'll just make some comments here. This is a very interesting developed area we're working with. This farm was for sale for quite some time prior. It is not the best land in Perth County, and I'll say that because I have equal. It was well known it was for sale. The farm didn't move. It's right up against the town of Milverton, a very much developed town. This is a great expansion for them. It's a nice holistic expansion, if you would. It's great for the Milverton, Mornington area. It's a unique community up there, unique to the rest of the county. I would say it's no secret. It's heavily populated with the Amish and Mennonite communities. This is great news for this area. It's again, a unique area and it'll work very well, I feel. It's interesting. There was great concerns with the push of an MZO. I believe they do have a place and this was one of them. This is very holistic, very up against the existing town. And it will benefit all of Perth County, I feel. And the farm was not the best one out there. It could hardly get a bite, I don't think. It never moved. And let's be honest, what farm doesn't sell in a couple of weeks this day and age? So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, motion on the floor. Moved and seconded. There's no other questions or comments. Those in favor of that motion? And that's carried. We're moving on. And next, we're going back to the lunar plan approval from the extension. And we did have Kate Willis with us before on that, made a presentation. So if you want to allow her to come back in case there's questions. And who is doing that one? Susanna? And there's Susanna. Susanna, we're ready.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen and walk you through this subdivision. This plan of subdivision was initially approved and considered in 2004. It's referred to as a lunar subdivision, and it's being brought to council with a request that the approval be extended. Since 2004, council has considered and it extended the approval for MPO 4-01 4 times. Most recently, you considered this application in August of this year, at which point it was modified. When the last extension was considered at October 7th, 2021, and at that point, the staff report said that if there was a further extension considered, then planning review should occur. So the recommendation for this file is that County Council modify and approve the application to extend draft approval of the lunar subdivision. And the wording on this motion is slightly different than the wording in the staff report. And I will walk you through this recommendation now. So while staff is recommending that it be modified and approved with an extension of 5 years, I would like council to know that you do have other options. You could extend the application without modification, and you could also deny the extension and then the file would lapse. And any further development on that property would need a new application. And to be clear, the planning department is recommending that it be approved and modified to incorporate additional conditions. And I'll just advise you with regards to those conditions. So for context, here is an outline of the property. The entire property is 40 acres and the area, sorry, it's 52 acres and the area that's proposed to be developed is 40 acres. It's east of Tremaine Road South and south of the Ag Park. And here are pictures of the driveway off of Tremaine Avenue South. This is standing on the property. You can see that it's currently being cropped. And here is the designation in the official plan. So the dotted red line here along Tremaine Avenue shows the division between the county official plan. So the subject property is the check marks on the white screen on the county official plan on the east side of Tremaine. The purple designation is an urban fringe designation, and there's residential development on most of those areas, except for the piece north on the corner of Tremaine at Perth line 86, where the Egg Park is located. The red land is our mobile home parks. And then on the west side of Tremaine Avenue, the blue is an industrial designation, and that's in the Listwell official plan. So the check marks on the white screen where on the white property where the subject property is located is a special policy A in the county official plan, which permits residential development. And then there are a number of policies to inform residential development on this site. Here is the subdivision that was most recently extended in October 2021, and it received an extension for 1 year at the time. So the current draft approval will expire on October 20 of 2022, this month. Now here is the official plan designation with an air photo underneath it. So you can see the subject property with the check marks on it is currently being cropped, and the surrounding land uses. Planning considerations that I will about to review are on the screen now, and where appropriate conditions have been added to the conditions of draft approval with the staff recommendation that those revised conditions be approved. So with regards to residential density, the direction from the Listowel official plan is on the screen now. And to be clear, the Listowel official plan is not the applicable plan for the subject property, as the subject property is within a special policy area in the county official plan. So this is provided for reference purposes. For council's information, the current density as proposed by the earlier draft approved subdivision is 13 to 15 units per hectare, which is a fairly low density. The planning department is recommending that a condition be added to the draft approval to require a higher density development. Then the second consideration was with regards to affordable housing. So this was taken to North Perth Council for their comments, and North Perth was supportive of adding a condition to require 10% of the development be affordable units as defined by the provincial policy statement. The developer has requested that condition not be included, and after further review of the policies, the condition is not included in the conditions recommended by the planning department, as there's no specific policy direction in the county official plan special policy area A. Okay, so the next planning consideration is with regards to compatibility from the industrial development on the east side of Tremaine Avenue. When a new residential development is proposed in proximity to an established industrial area, it's appropriate to consider whether or not there would be any noise from the existing industrial development that would have an impact on the new sensitive land use. And so a condition has been added to the recommended conditions for the subdivision that a noise compatibility study be prepared, and any mitigative efforts as recommended by that noise study be incorporated into the residential development. This is a map showing the wellhead protection area, and there is a condition added that a section 59 notice be provided in accordance with the Clean Water Act. There was good discussion at the North Perth Council with regards to traffic, and I would just draw council's attention to condition 9 in the draft conditions of approval. And this includes a traffic impact study requiring consideration of the intersection improvements on the corner of Perth Line 86 and Tremaine Avenue South, and that any improvements to that intersection be at the developer's cost. And finally, we note that there was prior use on the site where there had been the sale of agricultural equipment, and the developer's consultant has provided a record of site condition that has already been completed. So because this has already been addressed, there's no condition added with regards to the record of site condition. And that concludes the staff review.
Thank you, Susanna. Questions for Susanna on this one? Councillor Ike.
A bunch of us were just at an OFA meeting on Tuesday night in Listowel, or Natwood, sorry, where we talked about density and taking agriculture land away. And you're recommending not to make affordable housing and not to higher up the density against the wishes of North Perth Council, correct?
To you, Mr. Ward, thank you very much for your question. It's an excellent question. And that's not exactly the staff recommendation. There is a difference between what is high density and what is affordable. So we can imagine that there would be a higher density development that would protect agricultural land and increase the density, reduce the cost for infrastructure, increase the active transportation options for the residents who live there, but not necessarily be affordable. Like, we can have small units that are high end. So that is what we are recommending, and the developer has agreed to that. Let me just refer you to the condition. It is. Sorry, it's the very first condition. And the wording that is added is that the density of the development shall be between 10 and 40 units per hectare. A block of higher density residential development will be incorporated with a minimum density of 40 units per hectare and a maximum density of 60 units per hectare to provide a minimum of 75 residential units. So the conditions require that there be a higher density development within the plan of subdivision. And there is no specific condition at this time that requires that there be affordable dwelling units incorporated into the subdivision. And the reason for that is that upon review after the North Perth Council meeting and following the feedback that we received from the developer's consultant, is that there was no explicit policy direction in the special policy A in the county official plan that would support the inclusion of affordable housing. That said, at council's direction, we could add that condition. And also for council's information, the planning department is bringing the conversation with regards to affordable housing and incorporating affordable housing into every residential development with every developer.
Other questions? Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. The questions for Susanna. Susanna, I see that there's a condition in there about intersection improvements. And that was a concern of mine when we discussed this at North Perth. See, it's in relation to the second phase. How many can be built in the first phase before we have to look at those intersection improvements?
One moment, I can answer that question. 22.
22 units before
Yes.
improvements? Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Kassenberg?
I'm not sure you're going to call it questions, Mr. Warden. So if you'd rather me save it for the motion being on the floor, I could do that. But I certainly do have comments that reflect the interest of North Perth Council and the debate and discussions that were held there. with regards to this matter. And I think that the proposed density changes are inadequate to that council's intent and desire. I think that the lack of affordability here is actually offensive to North Perth Council, because it was certainly a strong point of discussion. And I'm glad to see the traffic conditions in place, as Councillor Duncan has alluded to as well. We have an answer to how many units can be built, but certainly the importance of understanding traffic flows on Tremaine, which is already a burdened passage through North Perth, were of concern to the North Perth Council. And if you ask me, it was the cumulative results of our preference for both higher density, which I don't think this is adequate yet, for affordability and traffic, that allowed North Perth Council, or led North Perth Council, to consent to recommending a change that would allow reapproval. But I don't think in the absence of those three conditions, North Perth Council would be supportive. And so I find myself quite concerned still about this proposal. And in the absence of that affordability piece, which is crucial in our times, as you know, Mr. Warden, I'm not going to support this one.
Other comments or questions? Councillor McDermott.
Yes, you indicate that there has to be an archaeological assessment. Is that why would you want to bother with that? Because I mean, it's been in an area that's been a farm, and they built machinery there or something. I mean, to me, that would be a waste of money.
Through you, Mr. Warden, the archaeological assessment is required for all plan of subdivision through the Planning Act regulations.
Councillor Hurley.
It's interesting times. I hear the comments around affordability. I still have yet to be able to get a solid answer around affordability, attainability. We have the cost of living and living wage. But we look what interest is doing at banks and up and down. I look at every street now, there seems to be a home for sale. There's a lot of mortgages coming due. You know, we're seeing 3-4% increases. You know, that's on $1 million home, that's $40,000 people are going to have to come up with. I'm not sure if anybody's going to be able to afford what they're in or not. I kind of liked what I saw here. At the end of the day, a lot of these factory jobs are $20 an hour, $22 an hour jobs. Well, that time you account everything in, like this affordability would have to be down around $150,000, $60,000, $70,000 home. Well, I don't think we're ever going to get them that low. So we can beat the drum of affordability. I just don't know. I still stay steadfast. There's going to be a pile of homes come for sale in the next 10 years as the baby boomer generation moves off into retirement homes and such. There's a pile that way. I like what I see here. I think it fits the area fine. And it's nice to see, though, that we are focusing expansion on existing towns and cities. I myself have been confused on that, hesitant. But as I go forward, we have to focus on our existing cities, towns that have that balance of work and live and keep that metric there. I like what I see personally. I think it's sufficient. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Councillor Wilhelm.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we as a council enforce affordability. What I like to see is higher density, and let's face it, if the developer can't make money, they're not gonna develop it. So I'd like to see higher density and let the developer work it out.
Other comments or questions? We do have Kate back on. Do you wish to address any of the concerns here, Kate?
Hi, thank you, Warden, for the opportunity to speak again. I just wanted to bring to light that there is already a special provision that's part of the recommendation of staff that will provide a block of higher density residential development. And it's to be a minimum of 40 units to 60 units per hectare. So there will be an alternative type of dwelling proposed in the subdivision as opposed to just single detached dwellings. And this would offer dwelling units that are more attainable. I mean, potentially not affordable in your the official sense of what affordable housing is. But however, it does provide an alternative type of home that may be more affordable to families as well. So that is my response to increased density. So I'm here to answer any other questions if there are any.
Councilor Kassenberg?
Just further to the discussion, I think that you know, applying one block could still leave us with the density overall in that subdivision of 10 per hectare, which would, from my perspective, just be an atrocious, unfortunate outcome in this case. We need to see higher density, and you know, I haven't seen evidence at this point, and maybe Susanna can do the calculation for me, that we're going to see anything above 10, and 10 is inadequate in our community in these times. And I think that North Perth Council has expressed itself on that matter, even though there is concession that there will be a new block built. As for the issues of affordability, we know, of course, that the federal government has a substantial intent to invest in affordable housing through CMHC. And those opportunities are available to all developers at this point in time. Yes, it is an onerous thing to perhaps enter into a 25-year agreement with CMHC for the purposes of subsidy to bring about affordable units, but I believe that that is the intent of North Perth Council at this point in terms of making its recommendations to the county. And you know, when we look at this land, we look at a decision that we're making here for 50 or 75 years in terms of sacrificing more farmland, you know, more land in our community to housing. And at this point in time, we need to make good decisions about this. I'm not convinced that if we don't have an affordable component in partnership with the government of Canada through CMHC, that this is a wise choice for North Perth. And my colleagues at North Perth, I think, through their expression, indicated the same.
Or I try to make too many comments, but I'm going to make one in this case. I have to agree with Councilor Wilhelm and Councilor Kassenberg. The density is not high enough. The original single family units. And I know everybody wants to retire and move on to their estate lot. Those days have gone. You can't afford to. A, price of land, and B, we can't give up that much land to keep doing that. I've got a motion here, and I'm going to read it, and whether it passes or not, we'll see. That's going to be up to council. The county council receives the extension of draft plan approval for the Lunar subdivision file number NP04 excuse me, 04-01 for part lots 41 and 42, concession 1, Elma Ward, municipality of North Perth report. And the county council modify and approve the application to extend draft approval of the Lunar subdivision file number NP404-01 for parts lot 41 and 42, concession 1, Elma Ward, municipality of North Perth, with the conditions that were attached in Schedule E. Is there a mover and a seconder for that motion? Councilor Herlick moves it. Do I have a seconder? Councilor McDermott. Last chance for comments or questions on this item. Councilor Duncan.
Yes, because we're talking about density here, I'd like to know, maybe Kate can tell us, how many units overall, this one block, we've been told it's how many units per block? How many units in total with this plan compared to the original? How much is density increased?
Okay, thank you for your question. At this time, we are just asking for an extension of the subdivision, and it's been a recommendation of the subdivision to provide a block. So with that, if approved today with those recommendations, then we would be going back and redesigning the plan of subdivision, and we would be coming back with a draft plan of subdivision and zoning amendment request to reflect the changes. So the plan before you in your package today is the existing plan that was approved back in 2004. And when we asked for the extension request just over a year ago, that was previously approved for a year, we had committed to developing to the max density as shown on the draft plan, which is 248. So there will be more density than the 248 units. And there will also be additional lands brought into it that are part of the MDS lands, shown as additional lands owned by applicants. So there will be an opportunity for council to review these plans and the proposed density, block sizes, and the density of the medium density block as well. So at this time, I can't give you a clear answer on how many number, like what the maximum number will be that we'll be providing, because we haven't done that yet. We're just at a point to see if council will extend it for another 5 years so we can make those changes to the plan and increase the density. So I hope that helps with your question.
Councilor Duncan again.
So through you, Warden, we've been working on this since 2004, numerous extensions, and now another 5 years. I'm sorry, I won't be able to support it.
Duly noted. Councilor Cullen.
Yes, through your Warden, and yes, a lot of comments, and as Councilor Kiesenberg has said, it was brought to us that we did want to speak on or support the affordable housing. I guess we can deal with that down the road. I thought this was an extension. Now, Matt wasn't at the last meeting where we talked about this. The reason they're asking for an extension is because, as Ms. Reed has said, on October 20th, this will halt and will start over again. I know myself included, a year ago said that we were not going to, extend this, but it just made sense to extend it working with us. So to be clear, I'm along with Matt now, but we are this is a vote to extend this for 5 years. Will we have control after that, Ms. Reed? With regards to density, affordable housing, attainable housing, et cetera.
No, not with the way that the conditions as drafted. No, so the developer would be proceeding to satisfy the conditions that are listed. There would be a rezoning requirement, so that would come to North Perth Council. There wouldn't be any other review with regards to the design of the subdivision.
So subsequently, so in my view, I've been misled and support Councillor Duncan as well. Thank you.
Kate has her hand up there on the screen.
Hi, thank you. So I just wanted to explain the reason for the 5-year request, and perhaps Susanna can support me on this one. Because of the conditions that have been imposed as part of the third option for the recommendation, we do need that extra time to complete the studies, to complete the archaeological study, to complete the traffic impact study, to do the subdivision redesign, and evaluate the market to make sure it'll work for our client as well as the town, and also to go through the public process with the zoning amendment and draft plan amendment. And so that's the reason for the extension of the timing for 5 years. It's not a matter of just satisfying a few more conditions to register the first phase. The conditions imposed by staff as part of their recommendation will require time and effort from our client and our team to work through and get it to a point where we can provide housing at the rates that staff are looking for. So that's my comment on the requirement for the 5-year extension period, and understanding the process ahead that the applicant will be required to go through to get to that point and satisfy these conditions.
Councillor Ait.
But Susanna just said you don't have to change it from 167 singles, 26 semis, and 28. You can do the exact plan. If we pass this, you can do the exact plan. Sure, you have to do an archaeological, kick the dirt over, plow it, but you don't have to raise the density one house if we pass this for 5-year extension. Susanna just said that to Mr. Kellen.
If I can respond to that, and Susanna, maybe you can support me on this. The recommendation to extend for 5 years involves a number of conditions. And one of those conditions is to provide a block with a density of 40 to 60 units per hectare. And so that will require a change to the density. So Susanna, could you please comment on that as well?
With your permission, Mr. Warden, that's correct. It will be more dense than it had been. That's in condition 1. What is not included is a requirement for affordable housing. And to clarify what I had offered to Councillor Kellum, the file won't come back for further review of County Council. There won't be a further opportunity for council to comment on the design of the subdivision. It would be possible at council's direction, I think that your options at this point are allow it to lapse, or you could also add an additional condition with regards to requiring affordable housing. You could add an additional condition that reads that a minimum of 10% of the total residential units be affordable as defined by the provincial policy statement. Or another option for council is to allow it to lapse. And then what would be needed is that we would start back at the beginning. They would submit an application for a plan of subdivision and the supporting studies. And the studies would be essentially what we're outlining as conditions to the approval now.
We certainly don't want it to lapse.
With regards to the timeline that has been discussed, the planning department doesn't generally have concerns with regards to the 5-year extension. But the concern, I think, for this file, and I'm arriving late to the party, is that it has been on the books since 2004. So it's like, does the developer have the intention to develop the land now? And that's something that Kate is able to speak to, and I'm not.
Councillor Duncan has his hand up.
And that's one of my concerns, that because this has been on the books since 2004, much of the background information is out of date in regards to how much our community is growing. So I'm having I had a very hard time with this to even think about giving them another 5 years to start with. And now that we're kind of beating around the bush about how much more dense we're going to get with this development. And like Councillor Kiesenberg has said, overall, it could still end up at only being 10 units per hectare over the whole development. So I guess I'm a little concerned about extending it without seeing something more substantial.
Councillor Kasberg, you had your hand headed in the direction of north.
No, I think Councillor Duncan has made my point that through methods that we don't fully understand and we don't have a clear answer on, they could still hit 10 units per hectare, even though they have one block that has 40 to 60. And I don't know how that works, but they could wind up with a very small block of 40 to 60 and say they've met the requirement. Well, I don't like it. I don't think North Perth Council wants to see it unfold that way. And certainly the discussion that we had, sensitive to our times and our community's needs, are that this is an opportunity for affordability of housing, and North Perth Council recommends that. So, I stay fixed in my concerns about this proposal.
Okay, I think we beat this one up pretty good. Councillor Wilhelm?
I just have a quick comment. We said a year ago that was the last extension, and I haven't seen anything to change my mind why we shouldn't let it lapse.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor. It was duly moved and seconded by Councillor Hurlick and Councillor McDermott, I believe. Those in favor, do you want the motion reread?
Yep, could you reread the motion?
I'll get that back on the screen there because the last part changed. Perth County Council receives the extension of draft plan approval for Lunar Subdivision. File number NP 04-01 for park lots 41 and 42, concession 1, Elm Award, Municipality of North Perth report. And that County Council modify and approve the application to extend draft approval of the Lunar Subdivision file number NP 04-01 for part lots 41 and 42, concession 1, Elma Ward, municipality of North Perth, with the conditions attached in Schedule E. So it has been moved and it has been seconded. From what I'm hearing here, I'm not thinking it's gonna fly, but those in favor of that motion. No, that would be 0. So I guess that doesn't fly. So I guess at this point, we will allow it to expire. Because from what I heard on there, and I correct me if I'm wrong, if they go back and reapply for the plan of subdivision, all the reports that were in some of these conditions haven't been done and have to be done anyway. So, and I think further to Councillor Duncan's comments, it might be more updated by doing it now than from 04. Anyway, so that has gonna lapse, and that was not approved. Unless somebody else has a motion they want to stick in the floor. And I'm not seeing any hands, so that's the end of that discussion on that. Moving on. Application for county official plan amendment 210 by Solomon Martin. And Pooney doing that one, I believe. Not Pooney did this first trip.
Thank you.
We're ready.
Thank you, Warden Aitchison. I will quickly just share the last slide, the refresher. All right, so I won't go into the details of the proposal. I just like to go over the purpose of what we are trying to achieve here. The applicant, as mentioned, is proposing to expand his on-farm diversified use of manufacturing. As I mentioned, the use is agricultural and agricultural related use and on-farm diversified uses are supported and encouraged by the provincial policy statement, by the OMAFRA guidelines. They align, this use is aligned with all the goals of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. This proposal does not have any adverse effect on the surrounding lands, and it does not impact the farming in a negative way in any way. It is an additional source of income for the owners, and therefore planning recommends approval. And I'd like to also draw your attention to the numbers, that it is well within the provincial policy statement guidelines through OMAFRA for on-farm diversified uses. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Pooney. Questions for Pooney on this? Not seeing too many. I have a motion. Council receives the report entitled Application for County Official Plan Amendment number 210 by Solomon Martin, affecting lands described as 4348 line 72, lot 11, concession 7, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East, for information. And that council approves the official plan amendment 210 to the County of Perth official plan pertaining to the lands at 348 line 72, lot 11, concession 7, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East. Moved by Deputy Warden Nagel, seconded by Councillor McDermott. Last chance for questions. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Pooney.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on. We're going to do economic development report. And I think we're going to take another 5-minute break to stretch. It's been going on for a while. And I realize people will have things to do, but we also need to get some blood circulating. Hopefully we can roll through the last bit, but we got pretty close to, we might have an hour left yet, so that's why we're going to take another break. So we're going to do economic development. So we got Ashley and Justin and Maggie on there.
Let's get lunch tonight.
Morning to all our active people, Ashley and Maggie and Justin. And we're ready for your report.
Good morning, Council. This report provides an overview of the economic development and tourism projects completed throughout Q3 of 2022. These projects include activities having to do with destination development and destination marketing, business attraction, growth and retention, community development, including housing and workforce initiatives, as well as efforts relating to growing our PC Connect public transit service. We continue to distribute and promote our tourism brochures and discover more flavor farm gate maps through weekly restocking at local and regional points of interest, including starting the delivery of some new custom Perth County tourism brochure racks. Content creation, online posting, and digital audience engagement continues to be a growing element of the Perth County tourism portfolio. Building and engaging with our online community is imperative in boosting brand awareness and offering a competitive edge. Thoughtful and strategic content development and marketing across social media has led to the online following on the Perth County Tourism Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter growing by approximately 1,650 users since Q3 2021, which we're happy with. Our Discover More Adventures experiential tourism program also continues to grow, with 7 new experiences being added to the program in 2022 for a total of 14 experiences developed and launched since the program launched at the start of last year. We continue to build this program into the future, ensuring that growth is done in a well-paced manner that will allow each business and visitor to find true value in the program. Last week, to kick off Ontario Agriculture Week, we launched the final Perth County Farms to Stratford Tables video for 2022. This series celebrates our close-knit, well-connected local food network and was very well received by audiences. Video 2 was featured as a commercial on CTV News throughout the previous 2 weeks, and Video 3 is slated for television broadcast in spring 2023. I'll now pass it over to Justin to speak to our cycle tourism strategy development.
Great, thank you, Ashley, and through the word into council. So our division continues to work towards the development of a Perth County cycle tourism strategy. The strategy is designed to build on the explosive growth of cycling and cycle tourism as a result of the pandemic and to really position Perth County as a cycle tourism leader going forward. So far, our expert consulting team from Transportation Options and the Economic Planning Group has conducted surveys, has done a number of interviews with key cycle stakeholders, excuse me, as well as facilitated 2 virtual community sessions. So we anticipate that our consulting team will present us with the draft strategy by the end of the month and be able to share that with the community at a cycle tourism summit, which is listed in the agenda package as November the 7th, but we've actually changed that date to November the 14th. So do look forward to welcoming many of you to that event and sharing the cycle tourism strategy with the community at that time. I'd also like to just mention a couple other items from the agenda package. So we hosted a community engagement session on September 22nd entitled Yes in My Backyard, along with our colleagues in planning. This event was really community engagement session, was facilitated by the Tamarack Institute, which is a registered charity, and was really designed to create positive community champions for our community. So really trying to foster conversations about becoming a welcoming community, sustainable growth, and what that means for us as a county. So look forward to the final report that will be released in regards to that event and some of the next steps. And then finally, I'll just take this opportunity to speak about our digital service squad. So our digital service squad continues to provide support to businesses across the county through to March 2024, thanks to a grant provided by the Digital Main Street program. So we have 2 DSS staff members on team, Ricky Zhao and Eileen Vandenuygen. They've both been reaching out to businesses across the county. And we know that a strong digital presence obviously was important during the pandemic, but is also due to changing consumer behaviors and expectations is a critical part of most small businesses going forward. So Eileen and Ricky remain available to assist businesses with a variety of things, including helping businesses with digital assessment, getting their business raised in terms of their Google profile, providing 360-degree photos, social media assistance, and more. And I just wanted to also note that if there are digital services that we don't list, they are able to provide services beyond just those core services, thanks to their network of digital service squad providers across the province. They're able to reach in and find out about those services and really support businesses in any digital needs you might have. Particularly right now, they're reaching out in regards to the digital transformation grant. So this is a $2,500 grant available to businesses to help them plan and implement a digital transformation plan for their business. And the current deadline for the intake is October 31st. So they are really encouraging businesses who have an interest in accessing this grant to reach out as soon as possible. Our team will provide support in filling out applications and really helping them, coach them through the process, make it as painless as possible. And I just wanted to note that so far through this most recent DSS 4.0, as we call it, our most recent initiative, we've reached out to over 143 businesses through direct phone calls, emails, and in-store visits. So our team is out on the street, knocking on business doors, calling them and emailing them. But of course, you can always reach them at Digital Service Squad at perthcounty.ca for assistance. And I will finally note, not in the agenda package, but an upcoming event that we're hosting on October the 13th, a 1-hour webinar from 6 to 7 p.m. Just an opportunity to meet and greet our DSS, Ricky and Eileen, to have them walk through kind of a demonstration in real time of how they can help a business and be available for question and answer to really support businesses and be a bit more public facing and get out there to really keep DSS top of mind through to March 2024. So that is it for me. I'll pass it on to Maggie to give a transportation update.
Thanks, Justin. Through the Warden, our PC Connect ridership continues to trend in the right direction, which is great. And it's up 106% since May, which is a result of our extensive marketing efforts, our community and employer outreach, and the launch of our new technology. So in efforts to continue to remove barriers and grow our PC Connect service, we are continuing to focus on both employer and community outreach and education. So as such, we have recently digitalized the PC Connect for Employers campaign, which has been designed to focus on educating employers on PC Connect and the benefits of leveraging public transportation. So things such as improving access to job opportunities, expanding employers' talent pools, and really reducing their corporate carbon footprint. So the new webpage offers resources on how PC Connect can help employers help their employees, specifically through working together to educate, coordinate, and accommodate for employees. So with support from our the economic and development team, we have compiled free toolkits for distribution to Perth County businesses, which include PC Connect educational resources and complimentary fare passes so that they can be distributed throughout the business and really entice and incentivize employees to try the service. Our new webpage also features a spotlight from one of our local businesses, LTI, who we have been working closely with since the launch of our PC Connect service. So PC Connect has provided LTI associates with an affordable means of transportation, and those that have leveraged the service to date have expressed their sincere gratitude towards the service, highlighting significant cost savings and improved convenience to get to work. LTI also identified reducing their carbon footprint as one of their main objectives this year, and they really plan to lean into PC Connect even further to reduce the number of cars in their parking lot and help provide affordable transportation options to their associates. So our goal is to really make many more successful partnerships with businesses throughout the county and continue to work closely with other businesses, BIAs and other business associations in order to do so. We will be promoting the new webpage on our socials in the upcoming weeks. And as always, we encourage our lower tiers to help us spread the word. In terms of sustainability and advocacy, we are working with the City of Stratford and other project partners to construct a business case for submission to the MTO. So this business case will highlight the impact that PC Connect has had on our community, the importance of a sustainable long-term service, and the request for additional funding in order to do so. Additionally, through our service provider, Voyago, Our PC Connect service is going to be featured at the upcoming Canadian Urban Transit Association conference to highlight the success of our inter-community transit service and the impact that it's had on our communities. So we're really excited about this opportunity to showcase our service, and it'll also provide great exposure and contribute to our advocacy efforts and continued support and funding. As always, we continue to heavily advertise PC Connect through multiple channels such as radio, social media, print ads, and billboards throughout the county and surrounding areas. We've had really great engagement on our social medias as we thrive to provide relatable and enticing content. And we continue to work on implementing creative marketing tactics to reach and resonate with different and new communities. Most recently, we've actually tapped into the Old Order Mennonite community, and we have an ad going out in their November journal that gets distributed to over 2,000 households each month. We're quite excited to see the impact of that ad. And then finally, we've also had a very active presence on the bus where we've been engaging with and receiving feedback from our riders, which is always great. I will be joining you again later on in the agenda to speak to some recommended service enhancements. So I'll leave my PC Connect update at that for now and welcome any questions that council may have for the Economic Development and Tourism team.
Thank you very much, Ashley, Maggie, and Justin. Questions for any one of the three? Not seeing anyone. I guess you did a great job because nobody has questions. I have a motion that County Council receives the Economic Development Tourism Division Q3 update report for information. Councillor Kellum moves, second by Councillor Wilhelm. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, folks, and we will see Maggie here in a little bit. Okay, we're going to break again for 5 minutes.
Respectfully, Warden, would closer to 10 be better? We have a lot to cover yet. For us who are double hatting this time of year, I'd like to make a couple calls, but we got what, a good hour of council yet.
Well, it'll be close. I'll say 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
I've got an engagement here shortly.
Thank you.
Okay, we're unmuted. We're recording again. We're good. You're getting a thumbs up and down there.
You're good.
We're good. Yeah, the thumbs up. Okay, moving on. Corporate services. We've had a couple had to leave us. They might be back. Anyway, first county council meeting schedule, and that would be Tyler.
Perfect. So through the warden, before council is the 2023 county council meeting schedule. A couple of things that I'd like to note is the background information does highlight when the meetings are proposed. Notice is a requirement for both regular and special council meetings pursuant to the Municipal Act. As such, we do post this on our website and through our iCompass portal. Another thing to note is that there was a slight error in the notes section, January 13th, February 3rd, and March 3rd. should have been changed to the first meeting of January, February, March respectively. That just was a slight typo. And I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that that's not an additional budget session. It should reflect January 12th, February 2nd, and March 2nd.
March 2nd, yeah, 2nd.
If necessary. As well, with respect to all the conferences, they are listed below. I will also note that they are all within our own province this year as opposed to last year. And kudos to all those organizations to get those meeting dates up and out earlier than usual. So that's great to see. If there's any questions, comments, be happy to take those at this time.
Councilor McDermott?
Yeah, I was just wondering if we shouldn't put a second meeting in September, so hopefully we don't have huge meetings like this, and just put it as a placeholder. If we don't have a lot to do, then we can cancel it.
Okay.
But if there's a lot to do, then
I did do some inquiring about today's meeting. 90% of the stuff we're dealing with, those reports would not have been September 10th. So they were all coming today here regardless.
but just put it in as.
So we can make it with a question mark.
And it'd be just like any other ones. If we need it, okay, and if not, we could just.
So we'll just adjust it to.
Yep.
Show that.
And maybe in future, we're gonna have a meeting like we had today. I would prefer that we split it up a bit. We would have another meeting because this is just way too much to digest. It was way too much to read. I know some of it was repetitive, but it's still, when you have 1,040 pages and we have our local councils in between and other meetings too. We had a now candidates night as well. I'm glad when tomorrow's coming, I'll tell you. So just take that into consideration. We were having another meeting like this one.
1,040 was just the first agenda package. You got a closed session and a couple out of it.
Oh, I know.
Okay, so we are gonna add September 21.
Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah.
So the resolution would read that council receives the 2023 county council meeting schedule report and that council approves the 2023 council meeting schedule with the addition of a second meeting in September.
Mover?
Do you just need a if necessary? Or just put it in and just.
I can always, whoever's co-chair cancel it ahead of time, correct?
Okay, no.
Mover? Mayor Wilhelm, second, Deputy Warden Angus. Those in favor? Carried. And speaking of meeting schedules, at this point in time, I do believe I will be calling a special council meeting for November the 10th. So I'm warning you now. Put it on your calendar. And that will be to do strictly with premises. Only item on the agenda.
Through the board, if you'd like a resolution for that, we can include that for November 10th, and it is for the courthouse campus facility project.
Now, if you want a resolution, we'll do that.
Sure, November 10th, that's a Thursday at 9 a.m. if council's available.
Moved by Councilor McKenzie, seconded by Councilor McDermott. Those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
She's done. Okay. Anything else on meetings? Got the motion passed? And we are moving on to Marvin Smith. Report.
So through the warden before council is the August 2022 forestry inspectors report. Marvin Smith, our forestry inspector, completes 7 inspections in response to the submission of a notice of intent or NOI. 1 inspection in response to the observation, his own observation, driving around, as well as 3 inspections in response to a request from a landowner. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to pass those on to Marvin.
Questions on this report? Seeing any? Motion, council receives the August 22 forestry inspectors report for information. Moved by Councilor Callum, second by Councilor Duncan. Those in favor? That's carried. And just before we leave this subject, I have had a request from, I know my Perth South Council. They would like to know if that forestry inspection report can be sent to the lower tiers so the lower tier councils can see it, because we are the operating authority as the upper tier, but they would like to see what's in that report
Oh, sure.
come to the lower tier as well. So if that could be sent out as a consent agenda item to the lower tiers or whatever, that would be lovely.
Sure. we can go.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We are at Annette.
Good morning. Good afternoon now. The report before you provides a overview of the activities for corporate services for the month of August. A very exciting highlight is that IT staff has worked to modify the current virtual court system to accommodate a new hybrid model. So what that means is that you could have the defendant, you could have a witness, a police officer, the justice of the peace attend either in person or virtually. So it operates actually very similar to counsel. It's a very unique way of holding court. Another interesting highlight, with the passing of Her Majesty the Queen, in criminal matters where you see R versus the defendant, the R stands for Regina, which means the Crown. So the Crown versus the defendant. That has now been changed to Rex. So I find that fascinating. And the opening and closing of the courts and administering of the oaths, that has also been replaced. So it used to be Her Majesty the Queen, it's now His Majesty the King. By way of divisional updates, IT and GIS, they've been assisting with a variety of matters, including the CADLink project for paramedic services, West Perth's asset management project, and roadmaps for the Blue Water Recycling Service, a network analysis to identify bus routes and stop locations for PC Connect for Google's public transit information. And they're working on the OP Natural Environment online map, which you saw a demonstration of, to make that public. Under legislative services, recruitment for the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee has begun. That term begins after the municipal election and will expire in 2026. Applications can be found online. Additionally, applications for the Cultivating Opportunity Grant Program, those are now open and available as well online. Archives has been diligently working on cataloging City of Stratford records, digitizing local newspapers, and offering reference and research services. Finance is in the process of finalizing the county's asset management plan and the 2021 financial audit, and budget preparations for 2023 to 2025 are underway. A quick staffing update. Danette Lecomte, Manager of Court Services. Her last day with the county was September 27th, and we are pleased to welcome back Linda Becker as the acting manager. A few things to look forward to. The 74th Annual Perth Municipal Day is scheduled to take place on November 16th. And the Reflections Garden dedication to celebrate Stratford Perth Archives' 50th anniversary, and the donation by council and the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee. A new bench is scheduled to take place October 13th at the archives. So subject to any questions, that's a brief update.
Questions for Annette? Seeing none. Motion, County Council receives the Legal Corporate Services August 22 update report, moved by Councillor Wilhelm, seconded by Councillor McDermott. Those in favor, carried. Moving on. Corey, I think, is the next on the agenda. Council remuneration bylaw. Morning, Corey.
Good afternoon, Warden Aitchison.
Oh, yeah, it's afternoon, sorry.
Correct.
Been a long day.
Yeah, so I'll be brief within this report. Essentially, this report is a update to the bylaw in relation to just remuneration. As identified in section 11 of the bylaw itself, council does get an inflationary index increase. So it's been identified within the report that the inflationary increase up to 2023, essentially on average a 2.33% increase over the 7 years that this bylaw has been in place. So this is just a kind of a overall cleanup update for council, but we will be looking over the next term of council in relation to a comprehensive review of the remuneration bylaw and see how it will fit in place in the next 4-year term for the new council. So if there's any questions, yeah.
Questions for Corey? Councilor McDermott.
Did you say then that when the new council's in, then you'll do like a comprehensive review of remuneration for council?
That is correct. Through the board.
Other questions?
Oh, one question, Warden. It was identified from Councillor Wilhelm. There is a little hiccup within the agenda in the bylaw, which will be coming soon. That has been rectified by legislative services. It's just in relation to the per diems for the full day, half day rates. It was indicated that the 2022 full day rate is correct, but the 23 full day rate is actually the 2022 half day rate. So those corrections have been made under section 2 of the bylaw.
Attorney Tyler's got that for me. Perfect. Thanks to Corey. No questions for Corey? Motion, council receives the council remuneration bylaw report. Moved by Councillor Duncan, second by Deputy Warden Nagis. Those in favor, it's carried. Okay, moving on again. Public Works. John McClellan.
Thank you, Warden Aitchison. I'll be brief. This report summarizes the contractor pre-qualification process for the 5-year renovation and connecting link addition project. This pre-qualification followed a very similar process as we undertook for the courthouse elevator. However, in this case, we did have 12 submissions from contractors to evaluate. The evaluation team met in mid-September and are recommending that when we proceed to the construction tender phase, we do so with the 8 contractors listed in the report. Those contractors are Devlin Construction from Guelph, MJ Dixon Construction from Mississauga, Dacon Construction from Waterloo, Phelps Design Build from Stratford, Elgin Contracting and Restoration from St. Thomas, Renault Crew from Toronto, K&L Construction from London, and Gateman Malloy from Kitchener. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for John? Don't see any. Councilor Wilhelm.
When would this be going out to the contractors for bids and such like, John? Through the board, and we just made a recommendation to have a meeting there on November 10th, which what we're hoping is you'll see basically the final design for this project, have an updated budget or cost estimate. And from that, we would then, if approved to move forward, the consultant would then do a permit drawings, which we would then be going to the city for a building permit. And at that time, we would be going out to tender for construction. So is that a little behind schedule of what we had earlier this year? Through the warden, we are a little behind schedule, correct?
And these here are, at this point, pre-qualifications, which we did the same thing for with the elevator.
Correct.
Okay, I have a motion. County Council receives the contractor pre-qualification results / 5-year reno and connecting link project report, and the Perth County Council approves the list of contractors identified through the pre-qualification process that will proceed to the tender stage for the 5-year reno and connecting link project. Councilor McKenzie moves. Mayor, or Councilor Wilhelm seconds. Questions? Those in favor? That's carried. Okay, and before we leave transportation, Councilor McDermott asked for items 5.2 and 5.3, which were traffic related. to be pulled, and I moved them into here, so Councilor McDermott, carry on.
I was just wondering if council would okay staff looking into them.
So basically you want these referred to staff?
Yes, please.
And you're fine with that, John? I think you've already had some discussions on this, haven't you?
Through the warden, we can certainly bring back reports in for both the items. We have a warrant process for street lighting, for dusk to dawn lighting, and as well, we do have a warrant for an all-way stop, which we will, in this case, I think, be undertaking a consultant to do that all-way stop warrant review.
Councilor Hurley?
I'll just add a verbal here. Myself, being in the trucking industry, we do realize the importance of safety. We do need the odd four-way stop here and there, some roundabouts. But we are also need to keep in mind the added costs, what this does to industries related who use these roads. Trucking industry is really feeling the pinch for roundabouts, four-way stops, more stops. It's adding cost to everybody. It's unique. The four-way stop, there's a recommendation, but of course, at the Flanagan corner there, this is where this is, out Downey Street. There's currently no vibration dampeners there. I believe there's new technologies there, maybe coming out or always playing with. I've been across them down by Paris. It shakes the vehicle, but they're not as noisy. I just want that to be verbal, so that if there is something like that could be added and visual there. I have concerns with the vision both ways, especially when you're in a vehicle that's taller. So just wanted that to be out there on the table, just verbal. Thank you.
Anything else?
Can we get a resolution on that? A
What's that?
referral, a referral motion? for that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that here right shortly. My comment was going to be, so when you say vibration, you're meaning rumbles, similar to rumble strips. So I know John and I have had this conversation a couple times this summer. We put rumble strips down and everybody phones up and complains about the noise.
Off the hop.
Oh, that continues on. Now, in one case, the person actually sold his house. Since we had that discussion, that was on line 36. And they weren't even close to the house. They'd kept them way back, further back than they should have because of the house, correct, John? You know, 136 and 135, or it's line 36 and 135.
And that's why I can just put it out there. Is there new technologies that aren't as noisy and shake the vehicle more? I feel like went across that. I'll have to go back to the area, but it seemed like a new technology. So is there new technologies evolving in related to rumble strips that aren't as noisy but shake vehicles? If not, that'd be something to look into. But yeah,
Well, the new technology seems to be roundabouts. And I'm not sure you want to spend that kind of money.
you'll be buying some properties.
These are millions of dollars on these intersections. I realize you gotta take public safety into priority, but I have this favorite saying.
What would that be?
We haven't heard that saying for a while.
For a while.
My comment, when John and I first talked about this four-way stop here, they don't stop at 2 stop signs. What makes you think they're gonna stop at 4? Really, like, one thing that has worked well, I haven't heard of anything horrible, is the street lights they put up in the boundary, stoplights with the boundary of
86.
Wellington on 80, you know, on the boundary there.
Mhm.
We haven't had anything horrible happen since, have we? John, one
This summer.
anyway. Okay, we're moving on. Motion for staff to refer this to a staff report, for a staff report to come back to council. You can word that whatever way you want to make it sound good, but we want a staff report on these 2 items. Moved by Councilor McDermott, second by Deputy Warden Negus. Those in favor? That's carried. Moving on. Man. You can tell I'm really starting to get tuckered down now. council reports, PC Connect Services. We're gonna need to get Maggie back on there, and there's Maggie. So now we're ready for that one.
Awesome, thank you. Hello again, everyone. So through the warden, I'm joining you this time on behalf of the Community Transportation Steering Committee, just to provide a recommendation for PC Connect service enhancements. So on September 15th, the steering committee met at the call of the chair to receive an update on the PC Connect service and review our operations to date. As I mentioned in my earlier report, our PC Connect ridership has been trending in the right direction. However, that being said, our Route B has had consistently low ridership. So this really illustrates and supports the demand to implement service enhancements as soon as possible. To date, our Route B ridership averages less than 1 rider a day, and our Route B Saturday ridership averages 3 rides per month compared to an average of 14 on Route A. After thorough review of data and discussion amongst the committee, we're recommending that County Council approves the recommendation to implement service enhancements, which are recommended to remove underutilized stops on Route B and terminate Saturday service on Route B. So these changes will allow for more frequency across the service, better utilizing funding to provide a more efficient service. So that being said, Route B will gain 2 additional trip times Monday to Friday, which will decrease the amount of time a rider has to wait for the next bus and overall improve their ability to transfer between different routes. So our data supports that by implementing immediate changes to the PC Connect service, we will improve our service efficiency, will better utilize our funding, hopefully increase our ridership, and really validate the demand for increased frequency in public transportation in our community as a whole. With that, my report and recommendation is before you, and I welcome any questions or comments council may have regarding this implementation.
Thanks, Maggie. Questions for Maggie on this one? Councilor Wilhelm.
I'll just make a comment and congratulate you on taking the bull by the horns and moving forward to adjust the routes as necessary. And I would suggest that you continue to follow that method, and I'm glad to see we're improving.
All right.
Thank you. Through the warden, I just want to point out, it is really important that we do follow that line of process improvement, and that actually is credit as well, not only to Maggie for doing that, but it is for County Council, because that was your direction right up front.
Other comments or questions? No, it's come a long, long way since we started those meetings. Not gonna brag. I remember different people saying, oh, we can't do it, there's a pandemic going on. And I kept saying, if you don't do it, you're not gonna get the money. If it's gonna lapse and you don't start by a certain date, you're done. Well, we rolled it out, and yes, it was slower than doodah the first little while, but it's coming. We will have to make adjustments, and Maggie's already come up with some good ones, but I keep telling people, there's one simple thing: use it or lose it. And that can be your new advertising slot. Anyway, questions and no questions? I have a motion. County Council receives the PC Connect Service Enhancements Report, and County Council approves the recommendation to implement Route B service enhancements, which includes removing underutilized stop locations and eliminating Saturday service. Moved by Councilor Wilhelm, second by Councilor Cullen. Those in favor? And that would be carried. Thank you very much, Maggie.
Thank you, everyone.
So it is 12:56. Technically, this meeting needs to end at 1 o'clock. That's not going to happen. I need a motion to continue this meeting on. Wilhelm, Councilor McDermott.
Do you have a specified time?
Until we're done. I honestly don't know how long the closed session is going to take. I'm hoping we can sit through it in less than 3/4 of an hour, maybe half an hour, but I can't guarantee you time. If you don't deal with it today, then that's just another day. Okay, we're moving on. I had a motion. Those in favor of that? Carried, gone. We're moving.
Thank you.
Where are we at now? Council reports, bylaws. And this first one is the OPA 209, and that is the Luby one in Perth. The bylaw 3894-2022 be ready first, second, and third time, and finally passed the 6th day of October 2022. Moved by Councillor Duncan, second by Councillor Ike. Those in favor, that's carried. And the next bylaw is 3938952022. That is, I gotta flip the page again. The Martin Solomon Martin one, OPA 210. I just like everybody to know exactly which the bylaws for. And so that's bylaw 38952022 be ready first, second, and third time, and finally passed the 6th day of October 2022. Moved by Councillor Hurlick, second by Councillor McDermott. Those in favor, that's carried. Moving on to the next bylaw. And that was the council remuneration bylaw. And is that the one we needed a little correction on?
Yes, so through the warden, we've made that correction on the written.
So this is the correct one here?
Yes.
Perfect. The bylaw is 3896-2022. Be ready first, second, and third time, and finally passed the 6th day of October 2022. Moved by Councillor Wilhelm, second by Councillor McDermott. Questions? I see Rhonda going.
What did they correct? They corrected the per diems?
The per diem.
Per diems, okay, that's
just the dates.
Yeah, okay.
Those in favor? Carried. Okay. Notice of motions. We don't believe we have any. Other business. Councillor McKenzie.
I don't want to take a long time, and Rhonda's kind of indicated this, and it's more directed, I think, at the planning staff. And I'm not knocking planning staff, don't get me wrong. But I think when we get reports, and we had 815 pages in West Perth, and we had what, 600 and something, I think, in public meeting, and 8,000 and something. A lot of that stuff, the technical stuff, I don't think we as councillors really need it. I think the planning staff needs it. I think it's important that they double check that they've done the noise studies, they've done, you know, all that's necessary. But I think if we just have an executive summary, I think that would suffice. I really do. And just, I just throw that out just for their consideration. It just, as Ron said, it just covers a weekend in reading.
I can concur with what you're saying, but one of the reasons that is on the agenda is for the general public.
Yeah.
Because they do preview that.
Yeah.
And some of them want to see that. And you have to be completely transparent. I understand that not everybody's reading all those consultant reports, trust me. Because there was a few graphs and lines I skipped.
Some of that technical stuff, even when you do read it, it doesn't mean anything to you.
Again, thank you through your work. That's where I'm caught up as well. We want to be transparent. And the public does enjoy reading that. And even myself, I'm kind of, as far as, you know, I'm not much for sports, but I do like, you know, just learning more how things work. And I enjoy them. I sit through some of it at times. Yes. You realize that it isn't the most important on there, but I enjoy it. So thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for other business, council or deputy warden?
Well, just further to that, do we have to see some of the stuff twice though? Like we see it in the public meeting and then we see it down again in the actual report. Like, isn't there some way to say, well, it's refer to page 50 or 100 and instead of seeing it in twice?
Certainly through the warden, your concerns are very, very valid. And we are going to have a discussion with staff. I know some of it's already underway to make sure that we can, you had two separate agendas, technically two separate meetings. And it's really important that we be able to prove what was before you when you made your decision, that you were informed. And had we had maybe the planning on a different day, that would have sufficed. But I think what we can do, and with the concurrence of council, we will come up with a strategy for that and talk to you about that, because I think we could remedy that through having links to the information that are very key. I think the justification report you're going to want to see, but the other technical reports can be addressed in the report as long as we have a link that is very solid, that the public could click on that and see all that detail. We're still transparent. Everything's available to the public. And that way council could also click on the link if they wanted to look at the technical side. But at least you keep that transparency, and we can ensure that we're doing our job to make sure that you're informed. And today it was tough because you're doing both meetings on the same day back to back. So I agree, it does look like a lot of duplication, and it is when you're doing it back to back. Same with the presentation, because you've just heard it. So we will take that advice and we will remedy that.
Other business. I've got one. So I had a call from the Year in Perth Fair Association. And this is for 4 fairs in Perth County. I think there's 10 in Huron County. They have an annual meeting. And they wanted to know if I could attend on it's October the 25th, the day after the election, to their annual get together. It's a supper, and they're going to have a little quiz about fun facts about Huron County and Perth County. And I have Councillor McKenzie working on that for the quiz for Perth County. He'll have it for me for sure.
I will.
However, I cannot attend that. I have a previous commitment. I've asked the deputy warden if she can attend that. She can't make it either. This meeting is in Brussels. I would love to know if somebody would attend that on behalf of the county council, or even if we had to, we'll take someone off a lower tier to attend. They would really like a representative from Perth County there to ask those 20 trivia questions.
Just what time would that be?
I believe it's 6 to 7:30 in Brussels at some place where they gather for meals every once in a while. There's a fancy bar there. That's the name of it. It's some barn.
Yeah. What was the date?
It's the day after the municipal election, October the 25th.
How long does it take to drive to Brussels?
Well, from your place, I don't know. It takes me well over an hour from my place.
40 minutes from your place here.
If nobody else wants, I can give it a shot.
Okay. There are only 4 fairs left in Perth County, and that actually kind of surprised me when I was chatting, but I didn't really think about it. And those 4 fairs are Stratford, Kirkton, Mitchell, and Listowel. But there's 10 in Huron County still.
If you could send an email, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I haven't got it. This person just keeps phoning me up, but I will, I'll get you her contact information. Walter's gonna come up with the quiz questions.
I'll send you the quiz and let you figure out the answers.
Okay, so that's taken care of. Thank you. Announcements, any announcements? So this is kind of maybe not proper, but I'm going to do it anyway. So last night, Perth South had a all candidates meeting, and it had a long, hard, busy day. And they asked me to get up, say a few words, introduce myself as the acclaimed mayor. I made one huge mistake. I forgot to introduce my wife, Lori. And today is Lori, my 43rd wedding anniversary. So I'm announcing that right now. So there you go.
Doesn't get you out of hot.
I'll tell you, she was just as tired as I was last night, but oh my God. But at least the thought's there. Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session at 1:06. And this is accordance to section 239 of municipal act, a matter pertaining to labor relations, another matter pertaining to labor relations, employee negotiations, a matter pertaining to security of municipal property, a matter pertaining to security of municipal property, again, IT, and a matter pertaining to labor relations, HR, and a matter pertaining to labor relations, again, HR. Moved by Councilor McDermott, Councilor Wilhelm. Those in favor? Carried. Now, we are gonna have to take a couple second break because we have to stop the streaming and eliminate some. Okay, so coming out of closed session, there's one issue we have to do. We need a motion to pass. And I'm gonna let Lori
Thank you.
verbally give the motion.
Through the warden, we would require a motion by council to approve the corporate electronic surveillance policy.
Do I have a mover and a seconder? Counselor Duncan, Counselor Wilhelm. Those in favor? That is carried. God, I'm surprised we only dropped one or two counselors. Anyway. We have a confirmatory bylaw. And I've got it here someplace. Bylaw number 38972022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the corporation of the county of Perth. And a regular meeting held October 6, 2022 was read a first, second, and third time. And finally passed October 6, 22. Councilor Kellum, second by Councilor Kassenberg. Those in favor, that's carried. Motion to adjourn. Councilor McDermott, Councilor Wilhelm. Those in favor, carried.